Chapter 001, The Sword Immortal System. My name is Lu Chun, hailing from Mount Shu. Whether you have heard of me or not is inconsequential. What truly matters is that I am here to assist you. In the dimly lit, eerie attic, beneath the silvery glow of the moonlight, stood a young man clad in white, his sword resting against his back. He appeared to be around 17 or 18 years of age, tall and slender, with refined features. A gentle smile permanently graced his lips, exuding warmth and approachability. Not far in front of him hung the corpse of a woman clad in red, suspended from the beams of the ceiling. Her countenance was grotesquely distorted, her face decayed, and within her eye sockets lay only a pale, lifeless orb, gazing in bewilderment towards the doorway. Roar! Do not cry out. You are already deceased. Yet due to the taint of malevolent energy, you have transformed into a blood corpse, wreaking havoc and tormenting the living. Thus, I have come to offer you liberation. Lu Chun spoke, nodding in affirmation, his smile unwavering despite the horrifying appearance of the figure before him. His tone was as calm as if he were reminiscing with an old friend. The blood corpse seemed taken aback by his composure, momentarily stunned, before baring its bloodied fangs in a menacing grin. The blood corpse emitted a shrill, piercing scream, its crimson attire writhing as a chilling wind surged, whipping up a storm of dust and debris. Bang! 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 All the doors and windows of the attic were abruptly sealed. In the oppressive darkness, Lu Chun was assailed by a foul stench that enveloped him, prompting a resigned sigh. What pity I'd hoped to leave you with an intact body. Lu Chun mused, shaking his head. As he spoke, his long sleeves waved, and a surge of magic rippled through the air, casting the blood corpse aside. In the next instant, his right hand extended, fingers poised together, and with a flick of his wrist, the sword sheath behind him hummed with energy, the sword emerging with a thunderous roar. The sword's brilliance dazzled like lightning, erupting forth in an instant. With a swift slash, the fierce sword energy tore through the malevolent aura surrounding the blood corpse, the intent to kill palpable. Horror flashed in the corpse's eyes as it clawed desperately, summoning all its strength in a futile attempt to block the oncoming beam of light. However, the sword was enveloped in magical energy, as if shrouded in thunder. The moment its claws made contact, they were reduced to charred remnants. The sword energy locked onto its target, leaving the blood corpse with no refuge, forced to watch helplessly as the cold radiance grew larger in its vision. With a swift thrust, the blade pierced through its skull. The blood corpse had no time to beg for mercy before its body erupted into a spray of blood, splattering across the attic's interior. Not a single bone remained. Clang! Congratulations, host, for successfully slaying the blood corpse, earning 100 experience. As the system notification echoed in the air, Lu Chun sheathed his sword, a hint of disappointment flickering across his face. Nothing dropped. This blood corpse is quite impoverished, isn't it? Yet, upon reflection, he realized that the blood corpse had only recently come into existence and possessed little cultivation. To gain 100 experience points was quite commendable. At the very least, it was far superior to slaying scarecrows atop the mountain. With this thought, he found himself feeling considerably more at ease. In truth, Lu Chun was not of this world. 3 months prior, he had found himself transported to this realm rife with demons and monsters due to an unforeseen incident, becoming a newly inducted disciple of Mount Shu. It was during this time that the system had awakened within him, known as the Sword Immortal System. Emerging from a previously indulged cultivation game, the core functionality is quite similar to the game interface itself. The principal means of advancement involve slaying monsters and undertaking quests to acquire experience and various rewards. Experience can be utilized to enhance one's cultivation level or elevate skill proficiency. Thus, Lu Chun commenced his monster hunting endeavors. For 3 continuous months, he diligently farmed the demonized scarecrows outside the locking demon tower of Mount Shu, astonishing disciples far and wide with his prowess, earning him the moniker Scarecrow Maniac. However, just yesterday, Lu Chun discovered that defeating the scarecrows no longer yielded any experience rewards, compelling him to descend the mountain and seek fortune in the surrounding villages. By chance, he encountered a recently formed blood corpse. Let me see how much experience I still require to level up, he pondered, casually accessing his personal information panel. Name, Lu Chun. Realm, Qi Refinement Ninth Layer. Cultivation Method, Tai Ching Perception Manuscript Max Level, Flying Sword Technique Max Level, Scarecrow Technique Max Level. Experience, 240, still insufficient. To break through to the ninth layer of Qi Refinement, at least 500 experience points are needed. This implies that I must slay at least 3 such blood corpses to reach the 10th layer of Qi Refinement and fulfill the conditions for Foundation establishment. Yet this is the foot of Mount Shu. The sword heroes of Mount Shu have long regarded the extermination of demons as their sacred duty, with sword cultivators perpetually patrolling the vicinity. Consequently, the surrounding villages and towns seldom witness the appearance of any monsters. Even if 1 or 2 were to appear, they would swiftly be eradicated by the disciples of Mount Shu. It was sheer luck that I stumbled upon a recently formed blood corpse this time. Finding such prey again would not be an easy task. As for the realms beyond Mount Shu, they are rife with countless demons, yet also fraught with peril. Lu Chun, not yet having established his foundation, dared not venture forth recklessly. After all, life is not a game. Should one perish, there would be no place to resurrect. Perhaps I should seek an opportunity to enter the locking demon tower? This thought flitted through his mind, only to be promptly dismissed. Setting aside the fact that the locking demon tower is a forbidden area of Mount Shu, inaccessible to ordinary disciples, even if one were to gain entry, it would not guarantee victory against the demons within. After all, those imprisoned in the locking demon tower are not mere trifles. With his current strength, would he be merely courting death? Alas, I find myself at a loss for suitable training grounds. Lu Chun lamented quietly. Just then, he noticed a quivering blood orb in the corner of the loft, seemingly animated. Could it be that the blood corpse is not dead? Lu Chun furrowed his brow. This is impossible. I have received the system's confirmation and gained experience, so the blood corpse must surely be deceased. The issue might lie with that drop of essence blood. While deep in thought, the blood orb suddenly burst apart, and a blood-colored creature resembling a leech crawled forth. With a shake of its body, it sprouted wings and soared into the air, heading towards the distant mountains. Truly peculiar. Ding! Blood-sucking goo insect detected, triggering the quest mystery of the blood corpse. Track the blood insect. Seek the source of the blood corpse's formation upon completion. A generous reward awaits. A quest has been triggered. Just as I was dozing off, fortune has come knocking. Liu Chen was troubled. Unsure of where to seek upgrades, this task arrived just in time. However, he did not recklessly pursue it. The system prompt mentioned the term goo worm, indicating that the strange insect might be controlled by someone behind the scenes. The strength of the adversary remained unknown. If he were to rashly chase after it, what if it turned out to be a formidable demon? Would that not be akin to courting death? Although this region belonged to Mount Shu, absolute safety could not be guaranteed. Lu Chun was inherently cautious. Without certainty, he would never place himself in peril. In such a moment, the scarecrow technique I obtained from the straw man is precisely what I need, he mused. With this thought, Lu Chun opened the window and reached out to gather a handful of weeds from the courtyard. Through the weaving of his magical essence, the weeds instantaneously transformed into a palm-sized straw man. Lu Chun then bit the tip of his finger, allowing a drop of blood to fall onto the straw man's forehead, casting it outward. To his astonishment, the straw man seemed to come to life, landing on the ground and swiftly setting off in pursuit of the direction where the bloodworm had flown away. Chapter 002. The mountain manor of the night enveloped the landscape in profound darkness, with foreboding clouds swirling ominously overhead. A few strands of chill moonlight pierced through the dense veil of clouds. Amidst the clusters of mountains and forests, a blood-red creature, no larger than a thumb, unfurled its wings and darted through the air like a bolt of lightning. Not far below, a straw figure sprinted with frantic urgency. Though its movements appeared somewhat rigid, it managed to keep pace with the speed of the blood insect. Before long, the creature suddenly swooped down and came to a halt in a distant valley. The straw figure ceased its frantic run, its brow aglow with a crimson light, as if a solitary I was gazing from a distant realm. It had come to a standstill. At this moment, Lu Chun remained outside the forest, skillfully manipulating the straw figure while observing the unfolding scene in the valley. This straw puppet technique allowed for the creation of a doll fashioned from grass, serving as a decoy. Powered by magical energy, it could be employed for reconnaissance and, in critical moments, function as a shield or a substitute for death. Moreover, with mastery of the incantations, it could also serve as a means to assault the soul. Its applications were virtually limitless. Thus, upon the emergence of this spell, Shushan had immediately elevated it to its utmost capacity. Now it finally demonstrated its value. In this valley lay a manor, though it appeared to have been abandoned for many years. The one controlling the blood insect must be concealed within. As he contemplated, Shushan formed a series of intricate hand seals. The straw figure outside the valley received the command and promptly ascended, descending along the mountainside and stealthily infiltrating the manor under the cloak of night. Soon, it arrived at the backyard, where an overwhelming stench of blood permeated the air. Upon entering, a well came into view, its depths illuminated by a crimson glow, brimming with fresh blood. A figure cloaked in black sat at the well's edge, legs submerged in the sanguine liquid, as if siphoning blood from it. Several blood-red creatures began to converge from all directions, their mouths agape like fountains, pouring their lifeblood into the well. The blood insect that Shushan had been tracking was among them. However, due to the blood corpse having been slain, it had no opportunity to feast and could only expel a small amount before being seized by the figure in black. Is this all there is? The figure appeared enraged. The blood insect writhed in his grip, as if beseeching for mercy. After a fleeting moment, the cloaked figure unveiled his eyes. My old wounds have resurfaced, and I am in dire need of a considerable amount of vital blood. I shall afford you one more chance to procure a new vessel. As he spoke, he seized a nearby bell and gave it a gentle shake. Shortly thereafter, a blood corpse soared in from outside the yard, shouldering a large burlap sack which it unceremoniously discarded onto the ground. Upon unveiling its contents, a young girl, approximately 8 or 9 years of age, emerged, ensnared by magic and rendered motionless, compelled to witness helplessly as the cloaked figure seized her. The blood-red insect bit its finger, gradually burrowing into her flesh. Do not fear. Soon you shall merge with it and become my blood servant. This will be your honor, the figure in black mocked. Suddenly, as if sensing a disturbance, he abruptly turned his head, his eyes ignited with a menacing light beneath the mask. From whence did this pest arise? As he spoke, he elevated his hand, channeling his arcane energy, and struck down with a formidable palm, creating a profound pit in the earth. Alas, I have been discovered. Shushan was taken aback by the other's keen vigilance, hastily maneuvering the straw effigy to leap over the wall and flee. However, the figure clad in black robes was swifter, moving with the swiftness of lightning and swiftly closing the distance. Do you think you can escape? Return to me. A large hand reached out, ensnaring the straw dummy in an instant. With a forceful grip, the dummy disintegrated into a cloud of fragments. A mere straw puppet. Humph. Such a trifling spell possesses a control range of no more than 3 miles. You cannot evade me. After shattering the straw dummy, the figure cloaked in black cast a frigid gaze. His cultivation technique, which entailed the manipulation of blood corpses through cursed insects, was a profoundly sinister art. Should the disciples of Shushan become aware of it, he would inevitably face death. Above all, the information must remain undisclosed. Chase, locate him for me. As the order was issued, 2 crimson shadows erupted from the courtyard, unveiling 2 additional bloodthirsty specters that swiftly vanished into the depths of the forest. That was a near escape. Fortunately, I exercised caution and employed the straw dummy as a decoy. Otherwise, had I acted impulsively, I would undoubtedly find myself in peril now. Within the depths of the forest, Shushan's countenance grew somber. He had never anticipated that the master of the peculiar insects would be a malevolent cultivator. By infusing cursed insects into living beings, he transformed them into blood corpses, dispatching them to kill and drain blood, thereby augmenting his own power. His methods were exceedingly nefarious. Such an individual lurked ominously at the foot of Shushan. Had he not witnessed it with his own eyes, Shushan would have found it hard to believe. Furthermore, this person's strength was likely formidable. Otherwise, he would not have eluded the vigilant gaze of Shushan's patrolling disciples. Judging from his ability to command blood corpses and the formidable force he exhibited in obliterating the straw dummy, he was assuredly at least at the foundation establishment stage. This undertaking, it appeared, would not be a simple endeavor. Nevertheless, as destiny had orchestrated this encounter, he felt an undeniable urge to seize the opportunity. Although renouncing the mission would invite no repercussions, it would also signify relinquishing the chance to cultivate his strength. I am but at the 9th layer of chi refinement. In a direct confrontation, I would find myself utterly outmatched by a foundation establishment cultivator. Yet, it seems this individual bears some injury, thus perhaps a flicker of hope remains. However, my immediate concern must be to confront the blood corpses at his side. As he reflected, Lu Chun conceived a stratagem. He reached forth and collected 2 handfuls of weeds from the adjacent thicket, intricately weaving them into a larger straw effigy. After imbuing it with his spiritual essence and allowing a drop of his blood to grace its forehead, the effigy appeared to animate. Yet, due to its considerable size, Lu Chen's current reservoir of spiritual energy could merely sustain its movements with the same agility as the previous, smaller iteration, and the distance of his control remained confined. Nevertheless, it should suffice to lure the blood corpses, for they were nothing but mindless aberrations. Once the enigmatic figure in black discovers the straw effigy, he will undoubtedly dispatch the blood corpses to silence me. I shall remain here, patiently awaiting my moment, and first eradicate his minions. As he contemplated, Lu Chun deliberately unleashed a wave of spiritual energy, infused with the scent of blood. He was convinced that as soon as the blood corpses penetrated the forest, they would be irresistibly drawn to him. Having finalized these preparations, Lu Chun ascended into the heights of a nearby tree. Before long, a chilling breeze swept through the forest, causing the foliage to quiver. 2 blood shadows surged in unison, their decaying visages contorting as they sniffed the air, reminiscent of wild dogs in pursuit of their quarry. "They are approaching," Lu Chun observed and deftly flicked his fingers. In an instant, the scarecrow nestled within the woods, animated, lurching clumsily as it surged forth. Roar! Kill! 2 bloodthirsty corpses howled with a guttural resonance, brandishing their claws as they lunged forward, intent on pinning the scarecrow to the earth, their gaping maws poised to deliver a savage bite. However, the anticipated blood did not splatter forth. Within their jaws lay only a tangle of withered weeds. With their meager intellect, they could not fathom the surreal predicament. At that moment, a glimmer of cold light erupted from the treetops, and with a swift sound, 2 heads soared into the air. The blood corpses swayed unsteadily before collapsing into pools of crimson. The parasitic insects within them, sensing their imminent demise, hastily endeavored to flee. Yet Lu Chun, drawing upon his prior experiences, was resolute in preventing their escape. With a flick of his wrist, a blade of energy sliced through the air. The 2 blood insects shrieked in terror, severed by the luminous edge. They struggled momentarily before succumbing to silence. Chapter 003. A sword transforms into 3 purities. Ding. Congratulations, esteemed host, for the successful vanquishing of a blood corpse, earning 100 experience. Ding. Congratulations, esteemed host, for the successful vanquishing of a blood corpse, acquiring a blood talisman, 100 experience. The system notifications echoed in rapid succession. Had he inadvertently unearthed a treasure? Lu Chun was momentarily taken aback, only to be enveloped by elation soon after. From his comprehension, the system possessed a mere 1 probability of dropping skills or items upon the defeat of monsters. Despite having vanquished innumerable scarecrows on the mountain, he had acquired but a solitary scarecrow technique. The meager drop rate was unmistakable. Of course, this could also be attributed to the low caliber of the scarecrows. He had not anticipated that the demise of these 2 blood corpses would yield such unforeseen rewards. Blood Talisman, a one-time talisman that, when activated, ignites vital blood to achieve a doubling of mana enhancement. Duration, 180 seconds. It was merely a consumable talisman. Upon its utilization, it would bestow upon him double mana for the span of 3 minutes. Lu Chun experienced a flicker of disappointment, having harbored hopes for a skill book. Nevertheless, the efficacy of this blood talisman was indeed pragmatic. Soon, he would confront that nefarious cultivator, and it would undoubtedly serve him well. A foundational-level evil cultivator must certainly qualify as a minor boss, would it not? I yearned for some valuable spoils. Lost in contemplation, Shushan descended, channeling his mana to reconstruct another scarecrow. He adorned the figure with garments discarded by the blood corpses. After a touch of improvisation, he lifted it and made his way towards the manor nestled in the valley. He did not anticipate that the scarecrow's rudimentary disguise would deceive his adversary. Rather, he aimed to gain a moment's respite to approach his target undetected. Upon the destruction of the diminutive scarecrow, I left a blade of grass upon the black-robed man as a mark of mana. He remains within the manor, exhibiting no inclination to escape. With a few graceful bounds, Shushan found himself back at the manor nestled in the valley. The figure in the black robe remained seated by the well, his back turned to the entrance. Unbeknownst to him, 2 additional blood corpses had emerged at his side, vigilantly guarding him. Shushan had not foreseen that his foe would summon further blood corpses from afar, demonstrating a notable level of caution. Fortunately, he had no desire to recklessly initiate a direct confrontation. In the face of overwhelming power, he would never resort to such an ostentatious mode of combat. Scarecrow advance. Shushan quietly summoned his magical energy, and the scarecrow, cloaked in the guise of a bloodied corpse, lurched towards the entrance of the manor. Simultaneously, under the veil of night, Shushan stealthily approached from another direction. "Why have you returned alone?" The figure clad in the ebony robe swiftly discerned the bloodied silhouette at the threshold and posed a query. Yet, the scarecrow remained mute, trudging onward with its head lowered. The astute man in black, ever observant, soon detected an anomaly and scoffed. "Ah, so it is you, rat. Eliminate him." With that directive, 2 nearby corpses animated, bellowing as they surged toward the scarecrow. With a thunderous crash, the scarecrow erupted into a cascade of fragments. Amidst the ensuing turmoil, Shushan sprang into action. His flying sword was drawn, slicing through the atmosphere with the swiftness of a lightning bolt as it surged into the melee. With a deft thrust, it penetrated the cranium of a bloodied cadaver. Subsequently, the sword gracefully arced through the air, altering its trajectory to behead the other corpse. The entire sequence unfolded with fluidity and precision, devoid of any semblance of hesitation. In the blink of an eye, both corpses lay vanquished. Shushan alighted in the courtyard, seized his flying sword, and approached the man in black with an air of menace. Flying sword technique. A disciple of Shushan, I perceive. The man clad in black did not turn, yet it appeared as though he possessed an acute awareness of his surroundings. To attain such mastery in the art of flying sword technique is indeed a rarity. No wonder you were able to vanquish the undead. Yet, alas, your cultivation remains insufficient. Had you chosen to flee earlier, you might have preserved your life. Instead, you opted for. With a swift thrust, his words were abruptly halted as Shushan's flying sword soared through the air, striking true into his back. No blood gushed forth as one might anticipate. It was as if it had become lodged within a decayed corpse. Enough of your rambling. Today, it shall be either your demise or mine. Shushan regarded the situation with indifference. He extended his hand, harnessing his power, which caused the sword lodged in the back of the black-robed figure to twist violently, ripping through decaying flesh. With a mere flick of his fingers, the sword ascended anew, this time aimed directly at the man's head. In that instant, the black-robed man, who had been turned away from the entrance, suddenly whirled around. His mask, resembling a ghastly visage, morphed into a sinister shadow, snapping at the approaching sword with a ferocious intensity. "You seek death," the black-robed man bellowed, his fangs clamping down with such ferocity that the sword splintered into fragments. Concurrently, claws emerged from beneath his sleeve, extending like a serpent, incessantly elongating. The razor-sharp talons were reminiscent of steel blades, striking with blinding speed. "Come fort, sword." Shushan swiftly retreated a step, drawing a backup flying sword from his sword case, barely managing to deflect the assault. He endeavored to launch a counterattack. The sword met the claws with a resounding clang, sparks scattering in the air. Remarkable. He has indeed forged his body into an iron corpse. No wonder he seeks the blood of others. It is to stave off the decay of his flesh. Lu Chun felt a surge of astonishment within, yet he maintained his composure. The adversary was evidently injured, resulting in a rotting form. At this moment, apart from his arms, no other part could rival the resilience of an iron corpse. As long as one could circumvent his arms, an assault on his torso would suffice. Why elect to become a ghoul instead of remaining a respectable human? Since you harbor such an affinity for corpses, I shall metamorphose you into a genuine one. As he uttered his words, Lu Chun crafted a sword gesture with his hands, his mystical energy swirling around him, causing the flying sword to spiral and tremble, fracturing in his grasp. With a singular motion, it metamorphosed into 3 luminous beams of sword light, cleaving through the atmosphere. This was an advanced manifestation of the Shushan flying sword technique, the most potent sword maneuver that Lu Chun had perfected. Clang, clang, clang. The 3 beams of sword light erupted in quick succession. 2 struck the iron corpse's arms, while the final sword plunged resolutely ahead. 1 sword transforms into 3. This is a metamorphosis achievable only through the mastery of the Shushan flying sword technique, and yet you were able to perform it? The figure clad in black robes was utterly astounded, seemingly well acquainted with the intricacies of Shushan swordplay. As he spoke, he expelled a foul, sanguine mist. This blood had been refined through arcane forces, tainted with lethal toxins, reminiscent of sulfuric acid. The brilliance of the sword light diminished significantly upon contact, causing even the flying sword to tremble precariously, nearly descending into oblivion. You exhibit a measure of talent in swordsmanship, yet your cultivation remains woefully insufficient. Prepare to embrace your demise. The figure clad in black retaliated with a sweeping motion of his arms, his claws ominously infused with a terrifying arcane energy as he launched a formidable strike. Lu Chun swiftly brandished his sword in a defensive posture, his own magical energy surging forth to conjure a luminous protective barrier. However, it lasted but a brief moment before being obliterated by a singular strike from his opponent's claw. The magical force wielded by a cultivator at the Foundation establishment stage remained overwhelmingly formidable. Despite his injuries, Lu Chun found himself unable to contend with such power. Fearing that the stalemate would enable his adversary to summon additional blood corpses, thereby placing him in grave danger, he resolved to take decisive action. Is it your magical force that seeks to subdue me? Blood Talisman, ignite. In this critical juncture, Lu Chun no longer restrained himself, summoning a blood talisman and channeling his magical energy to activate it. The scarlet talisman ascended into the sky, transforming into a cascade of ashes. A brilliant crimson luminescence enveloped his entire essence. Lu Chun sensed his blood surge, as though enlivened by a powerful elixir, propelling the mystical energy within his dantian to swell dramatically. With a swift motion, he unleashed a formidable blow upon the arm of the figure cloaked in black. Clang! Sparks erupted as the blade's energy scorched the air. The figure clad in black emitted a cry of agony, swiftly retracting his left arm. Before he could regain his composure, another radiant beam of sword light surged towards his visage. Chapter 4. A sword in retaliation with the enhancement of the blood talisman. Lu Chun's magical energy surged to unprecedented levels. Although it still fell short of rivaling a Foundation establishment cultivator, this transformation marked a substantial elevation in his abilities. Furthermore, his swordsmanship was exquisitely refined, and his command of the flying sword technique was unrivaled in Shushan. Meanwhile, the figure cloaked in black, despite his injuries, found it arduous to extricate himself from the ancient well. Consequently, he could summon only a fraction of his true strength, enabling Lu Chun to swiftly gain the upper hand. The sword light danced with a graceful elegance, shimmering with a frosty brilliance, compelling the black-robed figure to retreat, bringing him closer to within 3 paces. Cursed be this moment. I never anticipated that this young rascal possessed such talismans. The gaze of the figure cloaked in black intensified with fierce determination. Lu Chun's strength transcended his expectations. Who could have fathomed that a mere novice in the Qi refinement stage could master the Shu mountain sword technique to its zenith? Furthermore, he wielded both the scarecrow technique and talismans. Such remarkable prowess is indeed a rarity, even among the outer disciples of Shu Mountain. After all, this is the very base of Shu Mountain, where the sword guards frequently traverse. I must resolve this matter swiftly. Otherwise, if discovered, my demise is inevitable. As his thoughts raced, the man in black felt an even greater surge of murderous intent. Blood River technique. The figure in black trembled, and from the ancient well beneath him, a sanguine light surged forth like a fountain. A deluge of blood spread across the heavens, guided by his magical prowess, coalescing into tendrils of crimson, reminiscent of an octopus with its limbs extending in all directions. These sanguine tendrils exuded tremendous strength, capable of effortlessly shattering stone. Shrouded in a dark, malevolent aura, they sought to corrupt the power of Lu Chen's flying sword. Lu Chen refrained from engaging them directly. Instead, he swiftly ascended into the air, his sword swirling around him, creating a radiant barrier that repelled the blood-drenched claws. Let us see how long you can withstand. The man clad in black sneered with disdain. The 8 blood-red tendrils lashed out with ferocity, while 2 of his arms transformed into blade-like swords, ready to strike. The foundation-building cultivator is indeed overwhelmingly formidable. Even with the enhancement of the blood talismans, I can hardly endure this onslaught. The efficacy of the blood talismans will soon diminish. I possess but a singular opportunity. As he observed the relentless extinguishing of the sword light surrounding him, Lu Chen remained both vigilant and composed. He meticulously tracked the trajectory of his adversary's assaults while surreptitiously accessing the system interface, allocating the 500 experience points he had just acquired entirely to his cultivation. Instantly, his internal magical energy surged once more, elevating him to the 10th level of Qi refinement. Although his power still paled in comparison to that of the man in black, the disparity had notably diminished. Suddenly, Lu Chen's gaze sharpened as he discerned a fleeting vulnerability amidst the black-robed man's relentless barrage. This is the moment. Without a moment's hesitation, he seized the sword hilt suspended in midair. The surrounding glimmers of light from countless blades converged, merging upon the sword as if a multitude of flying swords had unified into one, emanating a radiant brilliance. With a fierce determination, Lu Chen's body synchronized with the sword as he descended, the harmonious fusion of man and sword resembling a shooting star. A thunderous explosion reverberated as the sword energy surged forth. The 8 blood-red tendrils shattered simultaneously, transforming into a cascade of crimson droplets. Lu Chen's blade pierced through layers of defense, advancing resolutely toward the figure cloaked in black, its keen edge aimed squarely at the center of his forehead. Impossible. How could your power have surged once more? The man clad in black was engulfed by a wave of panic, instinctively retracting his arms to form a protective crossguard. At that very moment, Lu Chen had nearly depleted his magical energy, channeling it into a singular, potent strike, its force immensely magnified compared to earlier attempts. The sword descended with a thunderous clash, followed by a burst of crimson light as the black-robed man's arms were nearly severed. The blade sliced deeply into his neck, penetrating 3 inches. Had it been an ordinary individual, such a grievous wound would have undoubtedly resulted in instantaneous demise. However, the figure in the black robe, owing to his extraordinary physical resilience, did not succumb immediately. Instead, he let out an eerie cry, and his robe disintegrated into a streak of bloodlight as he made his desperate escape toward the courtyard's exit. Is there truly a means of escape? Lu Chen raised an eyebrow. Yet, having endured such grave injuries, you are but a spent force. Where could you possibly flee? As he articulated his thoughts, he advanced a step, his figure appearing to glide like a delicate wisp of cotton as he ventured outside. At that instant, he abruptly perceived the silhouette of the cloaked figure retreating into the adjacent woods, soon followed by the resonant clash of steel. A brilliant arc of sword light cleaved through the heavens, and a dismembered body descended to the earth. Has he been thwarted? Lu Chen was momentarily taken aback. He swiftly accessed the system, only to discover that the mission had neither registered as completed nor as failed. While he contemplated this, a figure emerged from the undergrowth. It was a young man in his 20s, tall and striking, adorned in a flowing robe and wielding a flying sword, unmistakably a disciple of the Shu Mountain Patrol. Yet, for some inexplicable reason, his complexion appeared somewhat ashen. Who dares to perpetrate malevolence at the base of Shu Mountain? Truly, they are oblivious to the doom that awaits them. The young man descended with great haste, scrutinized the lifeless form upon the ground, and then directed his gaze towards Lu Chun, asking, "Are you unscathed, junior brother?" Lu Chun meticulously examined the newcomer, sensing an air of strangeness. The arrival of this senior brother was remarkably fortuitous. Just as the man in black sought to escape into the forest, he emerged and dispatched him with a single, decisive stroke. Such an occurrence seemed almost too improbable. Nonetheless, Lu Chun chose to conceal his doubts, feigning relief as he responded, "I am grateful, senior brother, for your timely intervention. Had it not been for you, this nefarious practitioner might have eluded capture." As he spoke, he approached the other man with a leisurely gait, all the while subtly channeling his magical energy. Earlier, he had left an imperceptible magical imprint on the black-robed man, ensuring that he could not slip away. This now fortuitously served to validate the identity of the newcomer. The young swordsman, clearly oblivious to Lu Chen's true intentions, lowered his guard as he watched him sheath his sword and inquired with a feigned curiosity. "I was instructed to patrol the mountains and observe a surge of blood light from several miles away, prompting my swift arrival. What exactly transpired here, junior brother?" It was a deranged and malevolent practitioner engaged in the creation of blood corpses, committing murder to enhance his skills, and I happened upon him. Lu Chun replied with a feigned smile. The young man maintained his composure. After hearing this, his expression grew solemn, and he remarked, "I did not anticipate such heinous acts occurring at the foot of Shu Mountain. This matter is of great significance, junior brother. I implore you to accompany me back to the sect, so we may report the situation directly to the sect leader." His words bore no evident flaws, yet there was an unmistakable eagerness in his tone. He had accepted Lu Chen's account without question, making no effort to investigate the estate, and now seemed all too eager to depart. Lu Chun inwardly derided the young man, directing an incisive gaze at his arms and neck. Although he could not identify the exact technique employed to conceal his injuries, subtle remnants were still perceptible. Coupled with the insights from the magical imprint, he remained vigilant. Lu Chun had already formed a nearly certain conclusion in his mind. However, he refrained from acting hastily. After all, his adversary was at the foundation establishment stage, and one could never be entirely certain of any concealed, life-saving strategies. It would be wise to await an opportunity for a decisive blow. With this contemplation, Lu Chun pretended to falter, his complexion wan as he remarked, "Senior brother, I have just employed a secret technique to forcibly augment my mana in a confrontation with the malevolent cultivators. And now I'm afflicted by a backlash that renders me immobile." "What? Is it grave?" The young man, upon witnessing this, exhibited a transient spark of joy in his eyes. As he spoke, he hurried towards Lu Chun, discreetly directing his mana. However, at that precise moment, Lu Chun abruptly turned his head, parted his lips, and a sword chi surged forth, as swift as lightning, piercing directly through the young man's throat. Chapter 005. A profitable exchange. The figure cloaked in black had metamorphosed into an iron-bound specter, nearly impervious to both blades and bullets. However, his injuries rendered his torso and neck notably susceptible. Lu Chun unleashed a swift and precise sword chi at close range, catching his adversary completely unawares. In an instant, the young man's throat was pierced, and blood erupted forth uncontrollably. His complexion drained of color, the young swordsman grasped his neck in a state of terror, staggering backward in disbelief. His mana swiftly diminished, leaving him unable to sustain his form. The injuries on his neck and arms then became starkly evident. Indeed, he was the enigmatic figure in the black robe. "You, how could you? Ha ha, senior brother, your little tricks may deceive others, but to mislead me lack sophistication." Lu Chun rose to his feet, his complexion somewhat pallid, yet his breath remained remarkably steady. The earlier turmoil coursing through his veins was not entirely feigned. The duration of the blood talisman had concluded, resulting in a slight depletion of his vitality. However, this was a mere trifle. A few days of recuperation would suffice for recovery. His opponent had fallen prey to the illusion of waning strength, believing he could turn the tide, only to be caught off guard by Lu Chen's preemptive strike. Though your sleight of hand was commendable, it ultimately fell short. Lu Chen shook his head. In that moment, his adversary had sustained a mortal wound, clinging to life solely by sheer will. Yet, he could no longer instigate any further upheaval. Who would have imagined that I, Lu Chen, would succumb to an obscure individual like you? The young swordsman managed a sorrowful smile. It was only now that Lu Chen learned his name, feeling a pang of pity. You have entered Shushan, and at such a tender age have cultivated to the foundation establishment stage. Your future gleams brightly, and there is truly no need to wander down a dark path. What do you comprehend? Without the blood soul great method, I would never have been able to establish my foundation with my innate talent. I do not wish to remain a mere mortal. I simply yearn for strength and to stand out. Is that a sin? Desiring strength is not inherently wrong, but it should not come at the expense of innocent lives. Senior brother, you have already succumbed to the demonic path. There is no redemption for you. Upon hearing this, Lu Chen recognized that his opponent was deeply ensnared by demonic inclinations and felt no further need to engage in futile discourse. He raised his sword and severed the young man's head, bringing an end to Lu Chen's nefarious existence. Congratulations to the host for triumphantly defeating the nefarious cultivator Lu Chen, thereby acquiring the Bloodlight escape technique, the twin fish pendant, and an experience boost of 1,000. Beep. Congratulations to the host for successfully completing the mission mystery of the Blood Corpse, achieving a mission rating of and receiving the Heavenly Grade Foundation Establishment Pill. The system notifications sounded in rapid succession. Lu Chen was filled with elation. This was indeed a considerable windfall. Not only did he gain 1,000 experience points, but he also obtained 2 extraordinary items. The mission reward, the Heavenly Grade Foundation Establishment Pill, was a rare and invaluable treasure. Bloodlight escape technique, an esoteric art of the Blood Soul sect, enabling one to traverse vast distances at the expense of one's vital essence. The extent of the escape is contingent upon one's cultivation level and the quantity of blood essence expended. Twin Fish Pendant, a modest magical artifact, featuring intertwined twin fish that conjure an illusion. When adorned, it can obscure one's presence and modify one's appearance to a certain degree. Heavenly Grade Foundation Establishment Pill, a divine elixir, exceedingly rare in the world and unattainable by mere mortals. Its consumption facilitates the establishment of a foundation in accordance with the heavenly way. Gazing upon the 3 items in his system inventory, Lu Chen's heart swelled with joy. While the Bloodlight escape technique did not augment combat prowess, it was an indispensable means of safeguarding one's life and evading danger. With this clandestine art, should he find himself in peril, he could escape if combat proved unfeasible, rendering mastery of it essential. The twin fish pendant also possessed remarkable practicality. Lu Chen had likely masked his own blood aura and sinister energy through the unique attributes of this artifact, eluding detection by the Shushan sect. Subsequently, he had depended on it for disguise, striving to navigate scrutiny undetected. Adorning this item would afford him an additional layer of protection, enabling him to shroud his cultivation aura and conceal his true capabilities. Furthermore, it could serve as a facade for strategic deception. As for the Heavenly Grade Foundation Establishment Pill, it was indeed a priceless treasure. Once a cultivator attains the 10th level of Qi refinement, they must engage in profound contemplation to facilitate a breakthrough, thereby laying a robust foundation for their chosen path. This signifies the inaugural significant threshold in the cultivation journey and represents the most crucial of foundations. The superior the quality of the foundation established, the more efficient the subsequent cultivation will be, enabling the practitioner to reach greater heights. Although Lu Chen possessed a system that allowed him to exchange experience points for conventional cultivation, breakthroughs in higher realms still demanded a meticulous approach. From his insights, the methodologies for foundation establishment in this realm can be broadly categorized into 3 distinct types. The human way of foundation establishment is the most straightforward and widely practiced. It merely necessitates the gathering of alchemical materials, followed by collaboration with an alchemist to concoct a foundation establishment pill, which, upon consumption, provides a chance of success. The vast majority of cultivators resort to this method for foundation establishment, albeit its potential is somewhat limited. The second method, the Earth way of foundation establishment, requires the pursuit of rare and unique treasures that resonate with one's cultivation technique and physique to achieve success. This approach is more arduous, yet significantly more potent. Typically, those who succeed in this endeavor will possess formidable magical powers, far surpassing those of ordinary individuals. Moreover, they may acquire corresponding special abilities. For example, an individual who establishes their foundation with Xianbing would gain innate mastery over frost, thereby greatly enhancing their cultivation of ice attribute techniques. In essence, all extraordinary cultivators employ this method for foundation establishment. The final method, the heavenly way of foundation establishment, exists solely in the realm of legend. This approach demands impeccable timing, favorable conditions, and harmonious circumstances with exceedingly stringent prerequisites. Any minor deviation may result in failure and immediate demise. According to Lu Chen's understanding within this domain, those who have successfully established the foundation of the heavenly path are exceedingly rare. Each one emerges as a towering figure, dominating an era, endowed with the potential for transcendence. Now, Lu Chen has acquired a heavenly foundation pill produced by the system, which requires no supplementary materials. One need only select a location abundant in spiritual energy, consume the pill, and they may directly establish a foundation in the heavenly path, boasting an exceptionally high success rate. Splendid, truly worthy of its S-rank task reward. Once I consume this pill and successfully establish my foundation, I shall undoubtedly ascend to the ranks of the world's foremost geniuses, with an immeasurable future awaiting me. Lu Chen laughed heartily. Though he possesses the advantage of the system and does not require personal cultivation, the stronger his innate talent, the greater the rewards he will reap from upgrades, propelling him towards even loftier achievements in the future. Sooner or later, he would wield his sword to traverse the heavens and revel in eternal freedom. What exquisite joy that would be! Nevertheless, Lu Chen remained unhurried. After all, he found himself in a desolate wilderness fraught with peril. It would be prudent to postpone any actions until he had returned to the sect and secured a safe haven for the establishment of his foundation. With his tasks nearing completion, Lu Chen rose from his seated position. After a moment of reflection, he grasped the identity token of Lu Chen, intent on returning it for the sake of accountability. The demise of a patrolling disciple warranted thorough investigation and could not be overlooked. It was far better to report the matter proactively. In any event, he had played no part in the unfortunate incident and might even be rewarded for his diligence. Having organized these affairs, Lu Chen made his way back to the estate nestled within the valley, intending first to dismantle the blood pool to avert any future consequences. However, he was taken aback by the faint cries for help that drifted from a nearby room. Ah, it appears there is still someone clinging to life. He furrowed his brow, summoning his magical energy as he cautiously pushed the door open from a distance. There, he beheld a young girl of approximately 8 or 9 years, sprawled on the floor, her face smeared with blood, reaching out to him in agony. Save me. Save me. The little girl lay on the ground, her expression a portrait of pain and frailty. After uttering those desperate words, it seemed she had exhausted all her strength. Her head tilted, and she succumbed to unconsciousness. Such an abrupt fainting spell posed a dilemma. Lu Chen frowned, recalling the image of this little girl. Previously, when he had dispatched a strong man to scout, he had witnessed Lu Chen capture her and implant a bloodworm within her body. He had presumed she would have perished, transformed into a blood corpse. To his astonishment, she exhibited remarkable resilience, retaining her consciousness, not yet consumed by the bloodworm. This left Lu Chen in a quandary. To forsake such a tender child would weigh heavily on his conscience. Yet how could he save her? The bloodworm had already infiltrated her body, and he was unaccustomed to such sinister sorcery. He might be unable to extricate it. If during the rescue, she were to be consumed by the bloodworm, transforming into a bloodthirsty corpse that could turn against him, would it not be tantamount to falling into a snare? As Lu Chun wavered, a notification resonated. Ding! Congratulations, esteemed host, on invoking the fortuitous quest, little girl. Task details. This young girl is plagued by blood poison, yet clings to her consciousness and vitality. She must possess remarkable attributes. If she can be healed, unforeseen rewards may await. Had a quest truly been initiated? A serendipitous encounter indeed. Might it be possible that this young girl conceals a secret of great significance? Regrettably, the task description of the system remains rather ambiguous. The specific rewards that await Lu Chun remain elusive. However, given the potential for gain, it is a venture worth undertaking. As long as one exercises caution, the risks appear minimal. The essence of the rewards is of little consequence. What truly matters is my earnest desire to assist. Lost in thought, Lu Chun extended his hand. He removed the cloth binding beside him and infused it with his magical energy, fashioning a rope to secure the young girl. This was to prevent her from awakening and possibly attacking him in a frenzy. Once these preparations were complete, Lu Chun lifted her and slung her over his shoulder. Lacking skills in detoxification or healing, he could only carry her back to Shushan, allowing the esteemed elders to devise a solution. With the girl in tow, Lu Chun casually dismantled the ancient well's blood pool in the courtyard, tidied up, and then set off for Shushan. Upon entering the mountain gate, he observed many disciples practicing swordplay in the square. Witnessing Lu Chun's return with a restrained child, their expressions turned peculiar. Lu Chun, disinterested in providing explanations, proceeded directly to the Sword Immortal Hall to seek an audience with the esteemed Master Qingshu. In Shushan, numerous disciples abound, and the hierarchy is stringent. Typically, a newly initiated outer disciple, such as Lu Chun, would lack the privilege to request an audience with the master. Nevertheless, due to the attention garnered from his fervent monster slaying at the demon locking tower, he had attained a degree of notoriety. Master Qingshu had previously commended him, encouraging disciples to emulate his diligence. Thus he was somewhat familiar. Now, claiming he had urgent matters to report, Master Qingshu made an exception and permitted him entry into the Sword Immortal Hall. This hall serves as the heart of the 9 peaks of Shushan, the abode of the master, and a crucial site for deliberations. Ordinarily, aside from Master Qingshu, no others are allowed to tread here. As Lu Chun entered the hall with a young girl, he beheld an elder with white hair seated cross-legged before an ancestral statue, enveloped in an ethereal sword aura, exuding an extraordinary presence. This man was none other than the current master of Shushan, Qingshu. Despite his unremarkable appearance, he was once celebrated as a sword god, and his cultivation had since ascended to the celestial realm, establishing him as one of the top 10 figures in the world. Disciple Lu Chun pays his respects to the master. Before such an imposing presence, Lu Chun felt compelled to show deference and promptly bowed in acknowledgement. Upon perceiving this, Master Qingshu opened his eyes, and his penetrating gaze swept over Lu Chun, evoking an uncanny sensation akin to the chilling caress of a sword's edge against his skin. It was as if he were being scrutinized, both externally and internally. Yet, this was merely an illusion. Lu Chun, I remember you, he stated. In the mere span of 3 months since your initiation, you have astonishingly ascended to the 10th level of Qi refinement, positioning you among the elite of outer disciples. Master Qingshu nodded slightly, his eyes betraying a glimmer of admiration. Every disciple of Shushan undergoes a rudimentary aptitude assessment upon their arrival. He recalled that Lu Chun's displayed talent had been rather unremarkable at that time. Such extraordinary progress within such a brief period can only be attributed to his unwavering diligence and an insatiable thirst for knowledge, surpassing that of the average practitioner. It evokes memories of his relentless sword training outside the demon restraining tower. This steadfast commitment to his craft remains vivid in the esteemed Qingshu mind. Unbeknownst to him, Lu Chun's endeavors of slaying scarecrows and sword practice served a dual purpose. While the outward appearance was that of training, the true aim was the accumulation of experience. As for his current prowess, it was not solely the fruit of his relentless efforts, but also significantly bolstered by external assistance. The stars do not forsake those who strive. Rivers favor those who row with determination. The heavens reward the diligent. Your future holds great promise, Qingshu Jinren encouraged, imparting a few words of motivation before concluding his discourse. He then shifted his gaze to the young girl beside him, his brow knitting slightly. This child emanates an aura of malevolence. What could be the source of such a presence? When confronted with grave matters, Lu Chun refrained from indulging in trivial conversation. He retrieved the identity jade token of Lu Chun from his bosom and recounted the events leading to the present with unwavering sincerity. The blood soul great method? Qingshu Jinren's frown deepened upon hearing this. This technique belongs to the blood soul sect, notoriously malevolent, demanding the consumption of living blood for cultivation. In years gone by, it stirred considerable turmoil, and I personally dismantled their stronghold. To consider that remnants of the blood soul sect still persist in this world, having even infiltrated my disciples of Shushan, the blood soul sect? Lu Chun raised an eyebrow at the mention, sensing the ominous nature of the sect. He recognized that further inquiry could potentially unveil a related quest. Yet, given that this was the very sect that once compelled the sword god to intervene directly, its formidable reputation was undeniable. With his current capabilities, engaging with them could precipitate his untimely demise. It was wise to abstain from involvement for the moment. Thus, Lu Chun maintained a composed demeanor, observing intently while refraining from further discourse. Qingshu Jinren had not anticipated any profound insights from a junior disciple. After a brief moment of contemplation, he turned and remarked, "You have performed admirably concerning the affairs of Lu Chun, vanquishing malevolence and protecting the populace from harm. This is indeed a noteworthy accomplishment. However, given the ramifications of the Blood Soul sect, which may incite widespread turmoil, it is prudent to keep this matter under wraps for the time being." "I understand, Master," Lu Chun replied. "Very well. Shushan has always been clear in its system of rewards and punishments. You have rendered a significant service. If you desire a reward, feel free to express your wishes. As long as it is not excessive, I shall consider making an exception." "Huh? Am I permitted to select my own reward? This is quite extraordinary. Would you bestow upon me the esteemed demon-restraining sword of Shushan? If such a request is not feasible, I would find solace in acquiring the revered text, the Xingluo Sword Classic." Nevertheless, Lu Chun was acutely aware that expressing such aspirations might be perceived as audacious. Such an admission would only invite contempt and jeopardize his future endeavors. Should Qingshu Jinren choose to bestow a reward upon him, he would graciously accept it. Yet, the question of what he truly desired left him in a state of indecision. To ask for something trivial would be a disservice to his own integrity, while seeking something grand could very well result in rejection. It appeared that he was destined to derive little substantial advantage from this circumstance. With a reluctant exhale, Lu Chun clasped his hands and declared, "Eradicating malevolence and upholding righteousness is the solemn duty of a disciple of Shushan. I cannot claim undue merit. However, if the master insists on granting me a reward, I humbly beseech your aid in rescuing this unfortunate young girl." Chapter 007. The reincarnation of a celestial being. Disciples seek no rewards. I earnestly implore the master to intercede and save this unfortunate little girl. Lu Chun, perplexed about the reward he should seek, could only express his sentiments with a weighty heart. He mused that even in the absence of a tangible reward, the mere accomplishment of this serendipitous task would be adequate. The esteemed Qingshu, oblivious to the deeper motivations behind Lu Chun's request, regarded him with a fresh sense of admiration upon hearing his words. This young man is industrious and erudite, embodying a noble spirit of chivalry and compassion. He is truly an individual of remarkable promise, Qingshu exclaimed with fervor. He then raised his hand and grasped at the air. The ropes that bound the little girl fell away, and her delicate form floated gracefully before him. With a gentle touch of his aged finger upon her brow, a surge of magical energy rippled outward, as if creating concentric waves. This blood poison, once it infiltrates the human body, swiftly devours the brain, subsequently seizing control of the body and transforming it into a blood corpse, a method employed by the Blood Soul sect. Ordinarily, a mortal frame cannot withstand such a toxin, and this girl should have perished long ago. After a meticulous examination, astonishment flickered in Qingshu's eyes. The enigma of the womb, the barrier of the purple mansion. No wonder. He suddenly seemed to uncover something profound, exclaiming, "Lu Chun, the little girl you have saved is truly extraordinary. I am acutely aware of her extraordinary essence. The system has conferred upon me a serendipitous duty." Lu Chun inwardly derided the notion, yet feigned modesty, inquiring, "Master, what is her present state?" The venom has infiltrated her being, threatening to engulf her mind and annihilate her consciousness, a destiny even the divine would struggle to avert. Nevertheless, this girl is exceptional. Within her purple mansion lies a protective barrier that safeguards her true spirit, preserving her existence, which is the reason the bloodworm has yet to claim her. Huh? What is the barrier of the purple mansion? Have you encountered the notion of a fallen celestial? Lu Chun paused for a brief moment before nodding in acknowledgement. A celestial descending to the mortal realm, enduring the trials of life, is referred to as a fallen celestial. Qingshu nodded in agreement and elaborated, "Indeed. Legends recount the existence of celestial beings dwelling in the heavens, observing the passage of time, transcending the ordinary. Yet, even these immortals are not exempt from mortality. They may encounter tribulations and reincarnate into the mortal realm. In order to safeguard their true essences, the reincarnated fallen celestials possess a protective barrier within their minds, ensuring their survival during the intricate process of gestation until they achieve enlightenment, unlock the treasures of the purple mansion, and awaken their past memories." Upon hearing this, even someone as dense as Lu Chun comprehended the seriousness of the matter. He could scarcely believe his ears. "Are you suggesting that the little girl I unwittingly saved is a reincarnated celestial? Reincarnation and cultivation. Does this not embody the essence of a quintessential protagonist?" Lu Chun beheld the unconscious young girl, momentarily ensnared in contemplation. This stroke of serendipity appeared almost too magnificent to comprehend. The clear void, true man, maintained a relatively placid demeanor and remarked, "The reincarnation of celestial beings has historically been a notable phenomenon and is not particularly extraordinary. Although they possess inherent wisdom prior to their enlightenment, they are indistinguishable from ordinary beings, save for a marginally elevated aptitude. This little girl has evidently only recently experienced her reincarnation and is far from the moment of awakening. Now that she has encountered misfortune and has been salvaged by you, it is indeed a matter of destiny and causality." As he spoke, the clear void true man did not halt his actions. With a deft flick of his fingers, he unleashed 12 strands of sword energy, each penetrating 12 vital points within the girl's form. In the subsequent instant, the girl expelled a mouthful of dark blood, and the monstrous insect within her was obliterated by the sword energy, expelled along with the blood. All is accomplished. The blood parasite within her has been eradicated. With a few days' repose, she shall regain her strength, the clear void true man stated as he withdrew his magical energy, gently guiding the girl back to Lu Chun's side. The blood vessels upon her visage had receded, rendering her akin to a porcelain doll in slumber, exceedingly endearing. "Thank you, Master," Lu Chun expressed, feeling a wave of relief at the sight of the girl's safety. He then cast a glance at the system task interface, only to discover that the quest for this fortuitous encounter had not registered completion and proffered no rewards. Might it be that the advantages will only reveal themselves when the girl unlocks her inherent wisdom? Indeed, serendipitous encounters diverge from conventional quests. There exist no definitive parameters for success or failure, and the rewards may not be dispensed forthwith. Does this imply that I must assume the role of her protector, fostering her development until she flourishes and unveils her wisdom? The reincarnation of a celestial being entails profound causal ramifications. As this young girl has been restored to life through your actions, it is now your solemn duty to nurture her. She likely has no remaining kin in the mortal realm and may reside at Mount Shu for the foreseeable future, the clear void true man elaborated, continuing his narrative. Lu Chun sensed that this responsibility of guardianship would inevitably rest upon him, left speechless yet reluctant to decline. After all, a reincarnated celestial being is destined to evolve into an extraordinary figure in the annals of history. Should a benevolent bond be established, the advantages would be beyond comprehension. Nevertheless, he found himself in a state of bewilderment. Logically, a being of celestial reincarnation would eclipse the vast majority of talents in existence. Given that the clear void Taoist recognized the girl's immense potential, why did he not directly usher her into the ranks of Mount Shu to enhance its might with a celestial warrior, instead opting to entrust her care to him? Was there an underlying reason for this? Lu Qing's heart overflowed with inquiries, yet he refrained from asking directly, choosing instead to nod in acquiescence. The clear void true man then admonished, her identity must remain confidential from any external parties to prevent unnecessary complications. Moreover, until she awakens of her own accord, you must never disclose her reincarnation status, for it may disrupt her inherent wisdom and lead to uncontrollable repercussions. I comprehend, Master, Lu Qing responded, fully cognizant that he would never succumb to the folly of hastening her development. After addressing matters pertaining to the girl, the clear void, true man, shifted his gaze back to Lu Qing, expressing admiration. You were unaware of this girl's origins, yet chose to exert yourself to rescue her. Such a disposition is indeed commendable. Although you willingly relinquish the rewards, as the master of Mount Shu, I cannot permit my own disciple to be at a disadvantage. With that, he waved his sleeve. A radiant aura of magical energy enveloped a turquoise lotus flower as it floated gracefully into the palm of my hand. This exquisite bloom, approximately the size of my hand, shimmered with a translucent blue light, reminiscent of jade intricately carved by skilled artisans, exuding an ethereal essence of pure celestial spirit. You have reached the 10th level of Qi refinement. It is time to contemplate the establishment of your foundation. This turquoise lotus, a treasure I acquired in my youth, is a rare gem of heaven and earth. I bestow it upon you today to assist you in your foundational cultivation. As the words were spoken, the lotus gently descended into Lu Qing's hands. What a remarkable treasure! Lu Qing was enveloped in a profound sense of joy. He had believed that the likelihood of receiving rewards was bleak, yet unexpectedly, following his heroic act of saving another, he was bestowed with an even greater blessing. Such celestial treasures are seldom encountered among mortals and are frequently accompanied by remarkable effects. Although Lu Qing possessed a foundation establishment pill, the addition of this rare gem would undoubtedly amplify his strength upon establishing his foundation. The master is indeed exceedingly gracious. He felt immense gratitude for having refrained from greed or presumption in his request for rewards. Had he not permitted the esteemed Qingshu to witness his compassionate spirit, he would not have so readily acquired the turquoise lotus. What an extraordinary stroke of fortune. Chapter 008. Foundation Establishment Breakthrough, Turquoise Lotus. A miraculous entity that flourishes in the weak water, a celestial treasure of the heavens and the earth, invaluable for aiding in the establishment of one's foundation. As Lu Qing beheld the lotus in his hand, a radiant smile illuminated his face. Although he remained uncertain of the precise effects this lotus would bestow upon his foundation establishment, its origin from the weak water instilled in him a profound confidence in its efficacy. "Thank you, Master." Lu Qing expressed his heartfelt gratitude. Qingshu merely gestured dismissively, then presented Lu Qing with a jade talisman. You currently reside in the quarters designated for outer disciples, which may present difficulties in caring for this young lady. This talisman grants you access to a residence in the tranquil back mountain, a serene and elegant cave dwelling that I once utilized for seclusion. You may take up residence there, especially as you are on the cusp of establishing your foundation and ascending to the ranks of an inner disciple. Bestowing this abode upon you is entirely within the rules. What a generous gift! Not merely a celestial treasure, but also an opulent villa. Lu Qing graciously accepted the offer, extending his gratitude once more before leaving the Sword Immortal Hall with the unconscious girl cradled in his arms. He could scarcely restrain his exhilaration at the prospect of exploring his new cavernous abode. This young man bears a remarkable resemblance to that individual. He has ventured into the back mountains. Perhaps this will reignite that person's spirit. Qingshu observed Lu Qing's retreating figure, lost in contemplation. He then cast a glance at the girl upon Lu Qing's back. a trace of concern etched upon his brow. The essence of celestial beings is unfathomable. Yet another exiled immortal has descended. For Shushan, it remains ambiguous whether this is a boon or a bane. This realm teeters on the precipice of profound transformation. As he contemplated, Qing Shu turned away, gesturing with his hand to unleash a ray of sword light directed towards the 7 tallest peaks of Shushan. His authoritative voice resonated, reaching the cave dwellings atop the 7 peaks. The Blood Soul sect has reemerged, and danger may loom. Fellow disciples, I implore you to gather at the Sword Immortal Hall to deliberate on countermeasures. Shushan serves merely as a collective appellation. Its full designation ought to be the 10,000 Mountains of Shu. Nestled within the profound heart of the 9 towering peaks lies the Shushan Sword Sect. Beyond the majestic Sword Immortal Peak, 7 other formidable summits, each named after the celestial Big Dipper, stand sentinel. Additionally, a rear mountain, though lacking a grand appellation, harbors the esteemed Demon Locking Tower and the Sword Tomb of Shu Mountain. As a result, malevolent energies frequently seep forth, giving rise to numerous demons, thereby rendering the rear mountain a prohibited territory. Generally, disciples seldom dare to venture there. The cave bestowed by the venerable Master Qing Shu is ensconced within the verdant woods of this rear mountain. Surely, this must be the place, mused Lu Chun, clutching the jade talisman as he ascended to the rear mountain and swiftly located the cave's entrance. Before him, a waterfall cascaded into a frigid pool, enveloped by lush foliage. Amidst this natural splendor stood a bamboo courtyard, appearing rather dilapidated and unassuming. It bore little resemblance to the opulent villa one might envision. Yet, its geographical position was commendable. The air was perfumed with the melodies of birds, suffused with the essence of heaven and earth. To the left lay the Sword Tomb, whilst to the right stood the Demon Locking Tower. Encircling the area was a formidable defensive sword array, meticulously designed to thwart any incursions from the demons that emerged from the mountain. Not a shabby abode at all. The courtyard even boasted a spiritual field capable of drawing water from the nearby waterfall for irrigation. Once tidied, it could serve as a haven for cultivating spiritual herbs. Lu Qin remarked, activating the barrier with the jade talisman as he entered. Upon surveying his surroundings, he felt a profound sense of satisfaction. The space was not only expansive but also secluded, ensuring solitude from the outside world. Moreover, being adjacent to the Demon Locking Tower, he could conveniently embark on demon hunts when the occasion called. From this moment forth, this shall be our sanctuary, he declared, as he carried the unconscious girl into the bamboo edifice. Though many years had elapsed since anyone resided here, the presence of a protective array maintained its cleanliness and order. The bamboo structure comprised 2 levels. The first floor housed a kitchen and a living area, alongside a small courtyard for sword practice, where numerous wooden dummies bore the scars of countless strikes. It was evident that the previous master had once ardently honed his swordsmanship here. The second floor contained 3 rooms, 2 bedrooms, and a study, sufficiently spacious for habitation. You little girl, you certainly know how to sleep, Lu Qin observed, glancing at the still unconscious child before gently placing her in one of the bedrooms. He then rose and made his way to the study. Here, he discovered a considerable collection of books. As he perused them, he found most to be travelogues and reflections on swordsmanship, devoid of the legendary martial arts manuals he had yearned to discover, which left him somewhat disheartened. He had anticipated that the master would have bequeathed some extraordinary techniques. However, within the study was also a small meditation chamber, inscribed and arranged with a miniature gathering array that could absorb the surrounding spiritual energy, thereby facilitating cultivation. It proved to be an exceedingly suitable place for foundational breakthroughs. Perfect. I shall partake of the primordial elixir here and endeavor to achieve a momentous breakthrough. With that thought, Lu Qin no longer hesitated. He first employed the jade talisman to deactivate the sword array barrier of the cave, ensuring his safety. He then entered the meditation chamber, positioning himself cross-legged. Attempting to invoke the Tai Ching sensory technique, he drew in the surrounding spiritual energy, which swiftly coalesced. After several breaths, the energy entered his body, metamorphosing into a stream of magical power. The concentration of spiritual energy here is indeed remarkable. Cultivating in this sanctuary will be significantly more efficient than in the outside world. However, as an individual endowed with extraordinary abilities, I shall eschew the tedious process of cultivation. It is imperative that I swiftly advance to the foundation establishment stage. For only then may I embark on the quest of slaying monsters and ascending in levels, which is the true path. As he contemplated, Lu Chun flipped his palm. The resplendent golden foundation establishment pill fell into his grasp, and without a moment's hesitation, he consumed it. The pill dissolved within him, unleashing a gentle golden aura that surged through his limbs and bones, akin to thunder and magma, tumultuous and fervent, converging within his energy sea and transforming into a surge of magical power. Boom! The echoes of thundering mountains and tumultuous seas reverberated within him, akin to a volcanic eruption. Lu Chun sensed the enchanting force within him awaken passionately, urging his vital essence to ascend, as if yearning to break free from the invisible restraints that held him captive. With a resounding crack, a sharp sound reverberated as if something had shattered. An immense surge of spiritual energy flowed into his being, metamorphosing into magical power. It transcended the original confines of his dantian, venturing into a more expansive domain. Lu Chun discerned with acute clarity that his dantian's reservoir of energy had significantly widened. This must signify the ultimate threshold for ordinary individuals within their foundation establishment. In this moment, he could pause and effortlessly embrace the magical prowess of foundation establishment. Yet, how could he restrain himself to such mundane limitations? The mere attainment of human foundation establishment is woefully inadequate. He must transcend. Lu Chun had ingested a celestial-grade foundation establishment pill. To merely establish a human foundation would be an egregious squandering of its potential. Without a moment's hesitation, he summoned all his magical prowess, propelling it skyward with fervent intensity. His internal energy surged forth like a beam of sword light, ascending toward the heavens, unyieldingly piercing through the encroaching darkness. Time became an indistinct blur. Lu Chun perceived a layer of obstruction, as though an invisible barrier impeded his progress. In that instant, the jade-green lotus adorning his being seemed to sense the urgency of the moment, soaring forth and blossoming with resplendent radiance. The jade light surged like a mighty tide, the lotus unfurling its petals, enveloping Lu Chun in a shimmering embrace. Chapter 009. Defying Fate. As Lu Chun summoned every ounce of his strength to transcend the foundational establishment. Beneath the majestic Mount Shu, within a secluded valley estate, a radiant sword light cleaved through the atmosphere. A silhouette gradually took shape amidst the luminescence. Adorned with a sable hat and enveloped in shadows, the individual's visage remained concealed. The ineffectual Lu Chun was dispatched before he could be set into motion. A lamentation for the futility of my endeavors, the figure muttered, their tone imbued with youthful vigor. Lu Chun has met his demise. It is likely that Shu Mountain has sensed our presence and may soon take decisive action. Master, what course of action should we pursue? Though evidently solitary, it appeared as if he were engaged in dialogue with an unseen confidant. After a protracted silence, he resumed, with my current strength, attempting to breach the demon ceiling tower would be akin to courting death. I can only remain concealed. Yet, the absence of Lu Cheng's twin fish pendant poses a significant risk. As he spoke, he drew forth a jade pendant from his bosom. Its form bore a remarkable resemblance to the pendant Lu Cheng had worn, for these twin fish pendants were originally a pair, with the pendant as the principal piece and the charm as the subordinate. It was he who had bestowed upon Lu Cheng the means to veil his presence, serving both as a method of surveillance and connection. However, to his astonishment, Lu Cheng has met his demise, and the twin fish pendant has fallen into the hands of another. Although this object lacks the ability to actively sense and communicate with the pendant, should it come into the possession of the esteemed members of Shushan, tracing it back would be a trivial endeavor for them. This individual must reside within Shushan. My disciples shall swiftly locate him to eradicate any potential threats. Upon concluding his proclamation, he summoned a flame of arcane energy. igniting the estate before soaring away upon his enchanted sword, disappearing into the valley. In a bamboo tower upon the rear mountain, Lu Chun was ardently striving to achieve a breakthrough. As the jade-green lotus merged with his essence, he distinctly perceived the expansion of his Qi-Si and Dantian. An abundance of spiritual energy surged within him, coalescing into arcane power, and his strength ascended steadily. The foundational establishment of the earthly stage was accomplished. The medicinal potency of the heavenly stage foundation pill continued to invigorate him, enabling him to consistently transcend his physical limits. In a moment of reverie, Lu Chun felt as though he had taken flight, akin to a beam of sword light soaring skyward, as if to pierce the clouds and unlock the gates of the heavens. At that instant, tumultuous clouds gathered, and a colossal golden hand descended from the firmament. Lu Chun sensed an unprecedented pressure. What was this, if not the might of heaven and earth, a force that mere mortals could scarcely behold? At that moment, he felt akin to a transgressor, unworthy in the gaze of the cosmos. In his mind, a voice thundered with indignation, "Retreat! How dare a mortal being aspire to seize the power of the heavens? You may advance only this far. Withdraw, and serenity shall prevail. Yet, should you audaciously strive forward, chaos will surely follow." This was the inner demon awakened by the establishment of the celestial foundation, undermining his resolve. Lu Chun comprehended that if he were to withdraw now, he might at least safeguard his talent for the earthly stage foundation, with a promising future still within reach. However, he would forfeit the essence of courage and ambition, sowing the seeds of trepidation within his soul. Given time, these seeds would flourish into inner demons and chains of the heart, which even the system would be powerless to dismantle. A faltering spirit renders even the most formidable external assistance ineffective. I shall not retreat. In my previous existence, I led an unremarkable life. Having been granted a second chance, how could I endure the prospect of remaining a mere insect? What a celestial principle! Humanity possesses the capacity to triumph over the heavens. I shall take this bold step forward. Lu Chun lifted his gaze, his eyes aglow with resolute determination. Memories of his former existence cascaded through his mind like a fleeting panorama, studying in obscurity, laboring without acknowledgement, and ultimately fading into silence. This is not the existence I yearn for. The path I choose and the destination I seek shall be dictated solely by my own will. He unleashed a mighty roar as the magical energy within him surged forth like a torrent unleashed from a dam, manifesting as wind, fire, thunder, and lightning. Countless extraordinary phenomena ultimately coalesced into a singular beam of sword light. This sword emerged from his heart, a manifestation of his blood and will, with magical power serving merely as fuel. Lu Chun recognized this as his opportunity to transcend beyond the Dragon Gate. Only by crossing this threshold could he truly establish himself in this world. No longer would he be an insect. No longer would he bow his head. He spread his arms wide, his white robe billowing like a banner, as the lotus blossoms beneath him scattered, their petals dancing gracefully, converging into the radiance of his sword. This was the essence of foundational cultivation. He had risked everything. At this moment, should he falter, there would be no retreat. Forward, onward, always onward. Lu Chun lifted his gaze to the heavens, stepping boldly into the ethereal realm, as the brilliance of his sword ignited with fervent intensity. In that fleeting moment, it transformed into an ascendant pillar of sword light, piercing the celestial expanse. With a resounding roar, the echoes of thunder resonated through the firmament. As the sword light advanced towards the golden hand, an eerie silence enveloped the world. All illusions disintegrated into nothingness. Lu Chun reopened his eyes. The potent energy within him gradually waned. A golden luminescence descended from above, enveloping his entire essence as torrents of power converged upon him. The foundation of the heavenly path has been triumphantly established. Lu Chun exclaimed with unrestrained elation. The journey of establishing this foundation was indeed fraught with peril, requiring a confrontation with the illusions of the mind. Had his resolve faltered even slightly, he might have encountered failure. This was a challenge beyond the assistance of the system. Now, At long last, he had emerged victorious. The foundation of the heavenly path represented an extraordinary talent, providing a robust basis for his future cultivation. Lu Chun felt as though he had been reborn. His aptitude, comprehension, and power had all experienced remarkable enhancement. Ding! Congratulations, esteemed host. The foundation of the heavenly path has been successfully established, bestowing upon you a fragment of celestial power, enabling you to defy destiny and acquire a unique talent. Ding! Congratulations. Esteemed host, you have acquired the illustrious talent of the Supreme Sword Heart. Supreme Sword Heart, even in the face of the heavens, you shall not falter in your resolve to draw your sword. With an indomitable spirit, you shall advance unceasingly. And the possession of this talent will endow you with boundless potential in the realm of swordsmanship. Remarkable. To challenge fate and attain an enhancement of talent? This epitomizes the profound terror of forging the foundation of the heavenly path. Not only has his overall aptitude ascended, but he has also acquired a unique talent capable of defying destiny. Lu Chen's heart surged with exhilaration. With the Supreme Sword Heart talent, the efficacy of his sword techniques would at least be magnified twofold. Moreover, the mastery of any sword art would become significantly easier and more formidable. Given the passage of time, achieving the status of the new generation's sword deity and unlocking the gates of heaven with his sword was far from unattainable. Truly marvelous. The Heavenly Grade Foundation pill is truly remarkable. After all, it is a creation of the system. Lu Chun mused with contentment. He endeavored to harness the energy within him, only to unveil a delicate, ethereal green lotus emerging in his dantian. This was undoubtedly the influence of the jade green lotus aiding in the establishment of his foundation, fundamentally enhancing the foundational cultivation process. What an extraordinary boon! Lu Chun extended his power to caress the verdant lotus, and forthwith, a stream of radiant jade light emanated, cascading like a flowing waterfall, imbued with the capacity to refine the body and mend wounds. Truly remarkable. This jade lotus light is undoubtedly emblematic of foundational cultivation. In the days to come, its manifestation will signify a commendable aptitude for foundational cultivation. As for the Heavenly Path Foundation, it remains exceedingly rare, better to preserve it as a secret weapon and not reveal it lightly. Lost in thought, he contemplated the ramifications. Lu Chun secured the twin fish pendant to his waist, a discreet means to mask a portion of his magical aura. He then ascended, soaring towards the icy pool nestled beneath the waterfall beyond the tower. He was eager to gauge the extent of his combat prowess following his establishment of the foundation. Chapter 010. The one beneath the pool, the waterfall cascading from the celestial pond atop the mountain, is a breathtaking spectacle, its waters flowing with great vigor, reminiscent of an opulent silk ribbon. This natural marvel is a prominent feature of Mount Shu. Beneath the waterfall lies a frigid pool, its emerald depths akin to amber. Lu Chun emerged from the bamboo loft, arriving above the chilling waters. Now a successful foundational cultivator, his magical strength had surged, empowering him to wield his flying sword and ascend for brief moments. Let me test the potency of my sword technique following this breakthrough, he proclaimed, and with a sweeping gesture, he called forth his sword, which surged forth like a bolt of lightning, slicing through the cascade of the waterfall. A resounding roar followed. Water surged tumultuously as the aura of the sword cleaved through the waterfall, only to be swiftly consumed by the torrent. His magical prowess had indeed escalated substantially, enabling him to rend the towering cascade with a singular strike. However, he was still far from mastering the ability to sever the flow entirely. The sword merely created a fissure before being swept away by the unyielding deluge, crashing into the frigid pool with a resounding clang. This is insufficient. Although my magical capabilities and realm have evolved, the Ta Ching sensory technique and the flying sword technique remain rudimentary endeavors, far from the intensity one yearned to attain. He contemplated, having vanquished Lu Chun, I still possess a significant reservoir of experience points. It is time to seek a more profound sword technique. As he mused, Lu Chun lifted his hand, aiming to retrieve the sword submerged in the icy depths. Suddenly, the waters below him began to roil violently, splashing upward. The sword that had plummeted pierced the lake's surface with astonishing swiftness, compelling Lu Chun to evade rapidly. Grasping the hilt, he was met with a tingling sensation, akin to an electric surge. What is transpiring? The sword has returned on its own? Lu Chun exclaimed, utterly astonished. Gazing intently into the abyss, he discerned a figure submerged within the unfathomable cold pool. Long hair floated gracefully like aquatic flora, and the figure sat cross-legged, resembling a statue hewn from clay or wood. My goodness, is there truly someone beneath the cold pool? Lu Chun gasped in disbelief. The depths of the pool were inscrutable. How could a soul endure such submersion? It appeared that this individual had languished there for countless years, enshrouded in moss and algae. Surely, they must be lifeless? Just as these thoughts traversed his mind, a slit opened in the eyes of the submerged figure. With a mere glance, Lu Chun felt as though a sharp blade had pierced his heart. What manner of gaze was that? It was piercing and ferocious, more fearsome than the gaze of the celestial master. As if a single look could penetrate the very essence of his soul. Had Lu Chun not recently endured the arduous trials of Foundation establishment, forging an unparalleled sword heart, he might have faltered under such an intense gaze. Fortunately, the figure appeared merely inclined to deliver a warning, refraining from any further actions. After a fleeting glance, he closed his eyes once more, not yet prepared for engagement. Alas, how can such a being exist in the frigid pond? Lu Chun was taken aback and, without a moment's hesitation, turned to depart. This entity, whose cultivation level remained elusive, was undoubtedly a fearsome presence. In the realm of gaming, it would certainly be categorized as a formidable adversary. A sense of betrayal washed over him, for he felt as though he had been deceived by the sect leader. He had never envisioned that such a being could dwell in close proximity to this bamboo dwelling. Cohabiting with it was undeniably intimidating. Should this creature be in a foul mood one fateful day, he might find himself in dire straits. A weight of discontent settled upon Lu Chun's heart. However, upon deeper contemplation, he recognized that since this was the former residence of the sect leader, the creature residing in the pond could not have escaped his notice. If this individual truly posed a threat, the sect leader would certainly not remain apathetic. As long as he refrained from inciting its ire, the creature ought to remain submerged. With this resolve, Lu Chun made a firm decision to steer clear of the frigid pond, pretending it simply did not exist. He returned to the bamboo house, still visibly shaken. Upon entering, he discovered that the young girl had roused, huddled in a corner, trembling and evidently frightened. Her previous traumatic experience had clearly left a significant psychological imprint upon her. After all, she had yet to awaken her innate wisdom, and in every respect of her intellect, she resembled an ordinary child. Do not be afraid. You are now on Mount Shu, and you are safe, Lu Chun reassured her, having glimpsed his face before losing consciousness. The girl found some comfort in his words. She blinked and gazed at Lu Chun, inquiring, "Did you save me?" In a manner of speaking, "I have simply returned you to Mount Shu." It was the sect leader who took decisive action to eradicate the blood worms residing within you, Lu Chun stated with honesty. He then procured 2 buns from his storage pouch and extended them to her. "You must be feeling famished. Please indulge in a morsel," he urged gently. The girl hesitated, casting a wary glance at the buns. Lu Chun comprehended her hesitance to place her trust in anyone at this moment and chose not to press the matter. He set the buns upon the table and casually inquired, "What is your name?" "I cannot recall," she replied, shaking her head. It appeared that the overwhelming stimuli had caused her to forfeit some of her memories. All recollections of her past, including her name and family, had dissipated. It was also conceivable that the activation of the protective mechanism within her mind, known as the Purple Mansion Barrier, designed as a safeguard for the banished immortal, had impaired her memory. "I see. That complicates matters," Lu Chun sighed. "You were captured by the Blood Corpse, so it is likely that your family has encountered misfortune as well. If you desire, you may remain at Mount Shu. There is ample space here for you." The girl nodded in acknowledgement of his offer, for she truly had nowhere else to turn. Mount Shu, esteemed as the epitome of righteousness, was undoubtedly the safest refuge. "Since you are willing to stay, you ought to possess a name. Shall I assist you in selecting one?" "Very well. Let us simply adopt my surname. You shall be called Lu Li Lu. Fence? Is Lu Li? Oh, Lu Chun shook his head in resignation. He gestured towards the steamed buns adorning the table and said, "Please, indulge yourself with some sustenance." Subsequently, he mentioned, "There are bathing supplies in the room for you to refresh yourself. Regrettably, I do not possess any women's attire here, so you may wear my garments for the time being." He concluded, "I shall return shortly to procure some daily essentials for you." With that, he turned and stepped through the door. He needed to visit the Disciples Registry Hall to amend his identity token. After all, he had successfully established his foundation and, in accordance with the sect's regulations, was entitled to ascend to the status of an inner disciple, thereby granting him access to enhanced privileges within the sect. Furthermore, he would obtain permission to enter the library, where he could select a foundation-building technique or spell. Chapter 011. The majestic sword chi in merely 3 fleeting months. You have successfully laid the groundwork for your cultivation. Your talent is indeed extraordinary, junior brother, the disciple at the registry hall exclaimed in admiration. In response, Lu Chun merely chuckled softly. If you were aware that I not only established my foundation, but did so through the rare Taoist method, you would undoubtedly be astounded. Naturally, the joys of a player endowed with exceptional advantages are not meant for the ears of outsiders. After seamlessly changing his identity token, Lu Chun did not linger and proceeded directly to the library. The Shushan library, in truth, was not as magnificent as one might envision. Chapter 012. Unrivaled in the same realm, there exists an unsettling quality to Yang Qi. As Lu Chun ambled back, a sense of perplexity enveloped him. Previously, he had sought information regarding Yang Qi, a figure of considerable prominence within the inner sect of Shushan. Having joined the sect 3 years prior, he exhibited remarkable aptitude, successfully establishing his foundation within a mere year. Although he only attained the conventional human foundation, he subsequently encountered numerous fortuitous events, acquiring an array of treasures. Presently, he had ascended to the late stage of foundation building, positioning himself among the foremost 100 experts within the inner sect. Such an individual would not simply vanish into obscurity. Chapter 013. A player with advantages. Dinner consisted of vegetable porridge, the flavor rather unremarkable. Nevertheless, Lu Chun relished it with genuine pleasure, for it was unreasonable to expect a 9-year-old child to conjure a banquet befitting royalty. After all, she was a reincarnated celestial being, not a deity of culinary mastery. As Lu Chun savored the last morsel of porridge, a smile blossomed on Lu Li's face, and she experienced a newfound sense of purpose, shedding her former timidity. Following the meal, the young girl promptly tidied the dishes, then accompanied Lu Chun into the courtyard, her countenance radiating with eager anticipation. Chapter 014. Rewarding kindness and punishing evil. A harmonious nature, the colossal serpent, spanning over 10 zhang in length and as robust as a barrel, was adorned with resplendent white scales reminiscent of jade. Evidently, it possessed remarkable powers and a degree of spiritual cultivation. It writhed and twisted, stirring the waters of the river as if it were a diminutive dragon, gliding through the currents toward the riverbank ahead. There, a wooden plank drifted, resembling a desiccated leaf, precariously close to capsizing. Upon this plank, a swaddled infant lay, wailing in abject terror. "Vile beast, do not act recklessly." Upon witnessing this, Lu Chun. Chapter 015. A river demon fond of song? My child, my beloved child. The woman's voice brimmed with urgency as she and her husband hurried along the riverbank in pursuit. Upon discovering Lu Chun cradling the infant and hearing the child's wails, they finally exhaled in relief. "Ah, it is the Master of Shushan. We are eternally grateful, Master, for rescuing our child." Upon recognizing the disciple robes of Shushan adorning Lu Chun, the couple immediately knelt and bowed their heads in profound reverence. In the land of Shu, the renown of Shushan far eclipses that of the imperial court. For these humble folk, Shushan resembles a guardian deity. Chapter 16. Come forth. The arrival of Lu Chun ignited immense joy among the citizens of Linjiang Town. They spontaneously emerged to extend their welcome, a privilege reserved exclusively for the disciples of Shushan. The sword immortal has arrived. Our Linjiang town is finally salvaged. I am Wang, the town's elder, and I humbly offer my respects to the master. From the throng, a hunchbacked elder emerged, bowing deeply. This venerable man, approaching his 70s, appeared fragile and weathered. Upon hearing his words, Lu Chun cast a glance in his direction and swiftly raised his hand to offer assistance, proclaiming, "There is no need for such formalities, Elder Wang." Chapter 17. A sword cuts through rivers with a resounding boom. Water erupted as waves surged skyward. The wooden vessel beneath Lu Chun splintered upon impact. From the depths, a dark shadow surged forth, ferocious and menacing, adorned with fangs akin to blades, and a gaping maw poised to consume Lu Chun entirely. The townsfolk along the shore gasped in horror, beholding the true visage of the river demon for the first time. With pallid faces, they were seized by terror. The river demon revealed itself to be a colossal black fish, exceeding 3 zhang in length, broad and corpulent, its scales shimmering. Chapter 18. The stone tablet of water suppression emotions are challenging to sever, and animosity arduous to extinguish. Observing the flickering scenes within the remnant spirit, Lu Chun sighed softly, perceiving the lingering resentment and reluctance. Alas, through the passage of years, the fisherman's soul had become fragmented, his identity long lost to the sands of time. The intertwined grievances and insatiable enmity could only manifest as a sigh of despair. It is a tragedy for that fisherman, whose life was one of virtue, now reduced to a mere corpse at the river's bottom, his flesh devoured by fish and shrimp, bones submerged and concealed from the light of day. There is a lingering fear that the resentment shall only intensify with time. Chapter 19. The 9-character true word rune as Lu Chun performed the rite for the fisherman's remains. A wisp of faint, golden merit energy ascended amidst the sparse azure smoke. It transformed into a golden thread, entwining around his fingertips. Merit? What a delightful surprise. Lu Chun felt a flicker of joy. In the realms of Taoism, Buddhism, and Confucianism, the notion of merit is universally esteemed. Merit, defined as virtuous deeds, embodies a benevolent heart. When heart and action converge, it constitutes merit. This is a reward conferred by the heavenly Tao upon beings of good virtue and intention. Elusive and ineffable. Chapter 20. You shall die. Lu Chun regarded the enchanting woman at the door, unable to resist the impulse to nod. Her figure was indeed remarkable. However, this fleeting thought dissipated swiftly. Though he appreciated beauty, he was no fool to be ensnared by it. He recalled having seen this woman upon his arrival. She appeared to be Elder Wang's granddaughter, named Wang Rong. In her youthful prime, she was dignified and gentle, a stark contrast to the ostentatious demeanor she exhibited now. When circumstances deviate from the norm, something sinister lurks beneath. He immediately grew wary, though outwardly, he maintained a facade of composure. Chapter 21. Cast long lines to catch big fish. If one possesses the capability to act, there is no need for idle discourse. Lu Chun has always adhered to this principle. Upon seeing Yang Qi appear and confirming his identity, he did not hesitate. With a swift motion, he unleashed a sword strike directly towards him. Since the opponent had allied with the Blood Soul sect, they had become mortal adversaries. Why extend courtesies towards such an opportunity that presented itself? A solitary sword metamorphoses into the 3 pure ones. The radiance of the sword cleaved through the atmosphere, swiftly encasing the vicinity where Yang Qi resided. Even if you have mastered the Howren sword Qi, you remain but in the nascent phase of foundation establishment. Chapter 022. Remnants of the Demon's Sect Ding. Congratulations to the host for successfully triggering the task. Remnants of the Demon's Sect. Your mission is to pursue the fleeing Yang Qi, identify the contact point of the Blood Soul sect remnants, and apprehend them all. Upon completion of this task, a considerable reward awaits, along with the possibility of activating the subsequent stage. As Lu Chun gazed at the task details illuminated on the system panel, a smile curled upon his lips. During the skirmish, he had received notification from the system. Consequently, the sword strike he had just executed was deliberately restrained, allowing Yang Qi to survive and providing him with the opportunity to flee. Chapter 023. The yin-yang mother and son swords Lu Chun. I never anticipated that you would dare to pursue me. Do you truly believe I am oblivious to your schemes? Amidst the flickering flames, Yang Qi advanced, his countenance frigid. As he spoke, he extended his hand and grasped, causing the tracking talisman on his shoulder to dissolve into nothingness. Given his cultivation level, it was, of course, impossible for him to perceive the tracking. It must have been the individual behind him who uncovered the traces of surveillance, but opted not to eliminate them directly. Instead, they devised a trap, enticing Lu Chun here to ensnare him in a lethal ambush. Did you fall for the ruse? Chapter 024. The great river soared intent in the profound depths of the feeble waters. Not even the lightest goose feather can find solace upon the surface. Instead, the floating weeds succumb to the depths. All that descends into these languid waters is destined to be transmuted into naught. Hence they are also referred to as the Yellow Springs, possessing the remarkable ability to render one oblivious to both past and future, purifying the very essence of the soul's memories. Within these weak waters, a jade-green lotus flourishes. Thus, the radiance of the green lotus encapsulates both vitality and the power to refine and dissolve all that it encounters. The extreme Yin Mother Sword, having succumbed to corrosion and dissolution, has significantly diminished the potency of the sword techniques wielded by the two Taoists. In the delicate balance of Yin and Yang, mother and child share an inseparable bond. Should the mother lose her child, chaos inevitably follows. Perish for me. Chapter 025. The map of Yellow Springs and the great river sword intent. This is inconceivable. Such formidable power cannot possibly be wielded by a mere cultivator at the foundation establishment stage. Yang Qi beheld the celestial river cascading down, his countenance suffused with astonishment and trepidation. He remained motionless, as if the brilliance of this sword had ensnared his very essence. In reality, even if he summoned all his strength, he would be unable to endure such a blow. The great river sword intent stands among the 7 supreme techniques of Mount Shu, possessing extraordinary potency. Although it is derived from the suspended river sword technique, its profound mysteries are unparalleled. Chapter 026. Twin Fish Pairing Minor 5 Elements Sword Array, harnessing the essence of the 5 elements to conjure a formidable sword array, culminating in an overwhelming surge of sword chi. The diagram inscribed within the storage pouch was designated as the Minor 5 Element Sword Array. This was precisely the technique previously executed in unison by the 5 youthful Taoists. However, due to their limited cultivation and the independent wielding of their swords, their combined power appeared somewhat lackluster. In reality, this formation possessed considerable potency. If meticulously arranged in advance, it could deliver a devastating blow. Lu Chun did not deliberate for long and nonchalantly secured it, planning to establish it within his own cave dwelling upon his return. Chapter 027. The Confucian Sword Saint, a woman born in the year of Yin, during the Yin month and Yin hour, with a destiny steeped in extreme Yin. Could she be pondering something profound? Upon perusing the roster presented by Lu Chun, Master Ching Su's demeanor subtly altered, as though he had been reminded of a grave matter. Yet, he swiftly regained his equanimity, pressed the roster down, and remarked, "This matter bears immense significance. I must first dispatch someone to conduct a thorough investigation. Only after verification can we arrive at a conclusion." After speaking, he cast another glance at Lu Chun and added, "Once again, you have achieved a remarkable feat. What reward do you desire? Speak freely." Chapter 028. Transforming illusions into reality. The essence of magical energy. Have you grown accustomed to residing here during this period? Lu Chun inquired while absently picking at the greens in his bowl. Lu Li contemplated for a moment before replying, "It is quite delightful. This place exudes tranquility, free from disturbances. I can indulge in my desires, and with Brother Lu Chun by my side, I could truly treasure these moments." However, her voice faltered, dipping to a softer tone. "What troubles you? It's merely that my mother only imparted the skill of stir-frying greens, and I have grown somewhat weary of it. Might Brother Lu Chun be willing to teach me how to prepare other culinary delights?" Chapter 029. Subduing the Heart's Monkey. Enlightenment of the Sword Heart. Remarkable. The script within this letter emanates such profound sword intent that it can sway the mind, ensnaring me within an illusion. It is no wonder the sect leader previously asserted that only those who have attained the crystallization realm may gaze upon it. Otherwise, they would be unable to withstand the potent sword energy embedded in the script. Should the mind falter, the repercussions would be catastrophic. Lu Chun beheld the swirling sword energy encircling him, unable to contain his admiration. He recognized that his spirit had traversed into the realm conjured by the letter. This was an illusion, a domain entirely woven from the essence of sword energy. There existed neither sky nor earth. Chapter 030. The Sword Granting Ceremony Ding. Congratulations to the host for successfully comprehending the subsequent cultivation methods of Howren Sword Chi. It can now be elevated to the esteemed 6th level through the accumulation of experience points. Success. Upon hearing the system's notification, Lu Chen's eyes shimmered with excitement. Previously, the Howren Sword Chi he practiced was merely an incomplete version, capable of ascending to a maximum of the 3rd level. Now, having mastered the complete cultivation method, he was poised to advance further. However, was the pinnacle only the 6th level? Did Mr. Chen also attain the 6th level of Howren Sword Chi, achieving a status that rivaled that of the sect leader? Chapter 031. You seize the sword. I slay the monsters. The divine sword Tai stands as the most inscrutable among the 3 divine swords. Its origins remain a mystery, and no soul has ever laid eyes upon it in the flesh. Nevertheless, it is widely believed that Tai lies within the sword tomb, having unleashed a profound malevolence due to an abundance of bloodshed, enveloping the entire sword tomb in a sinister aura. Deprived of daylight, it weeps eternally. Somewhere within the depths of the sword tomb, it awaits its rightful master. Only those blessed with extraordinary fortune may catch a glimpse of it. Only those endowed with unwavering perseverance may withstand its presence. For countless years, its true extent has remained shrouded in obscurity. Chapter 032. The sorrowful cry of the divine sword. Is it truly possible that the girl Ning Shuang is irresistibly drawn to the divine sword Tai? Upon hearing these words, the leader of the 7 peaks fell into a profound silence. While others may remain oblivious, they are acutely aware of the sword's origins. In times past, a certain individual wielded Tai with such formidable strength that he became invincible in this realm, even standing resolute against the heavens. Yet subsequently, Tai was abandoned in the sword tomb, lamenting its fate day by day. This is indeed a true divine sword, its power surpassing even that of pure yang and the celestial star. Chapter 033. Sword Chi as Armor. Steps blooming with lotuses. How could the sharpness of the divine sword be desired by mere mortals? They are unworthy to behold the true visage of Tai. Outside the sword tomb, the leader of the 7 peaks beheld the tumultuous aura of murderous sword light, shaking his head in disbelief. Each year, as the sword tomb opens, Tai emits a mournful cry, yearning for someone to restore its former glory. Yet, regrettably, no one has ever succeeded in overcoming the terrifying aura to reach the summit. They cannot even catch a glimpse, let alone inherit or subdue it. As time flows, Chapter 034. Souls lost beneath the blade, it has receded. The surging, violent aura has inexplicably withdrawn. All disciples present, witnessing this astonishing spectacle, were left in utter shock. They have all personally experienced the formidable force of the aura, which is both fearsome and capable of corrupting magical powers. A single encounter could send them reeling. Even Xian Ning Shuang, at the zenith of crystallization, could scarcely endure it for a fleeting moment before being compelled to withdraw. In stark contrast, Lu Chun navigated effortlessly through the tempest of murderous aura, commanding it to retreat as though it feared his presence. Chapter 035. Forward, draw the sword with one hand, wielding the essence of the great river sword. Lu Chun cleaved through the aura, vanquishing lost souls, leaving all of Mount Shu astounded. Every gaze converged upon him at that moment. For the first time, the name Lu Chun was indelibly inscribed in the memories of all disciples of Mount Shu. First came the righteous sword aura, followed by the essence of the great river sword. Lu Chen's prowess in swordsmanship has surpassed all expectations. With this singular stroke, he has emerged as the most luminous star at this year's sword ceremony, overshadowing all other prodigies. To arrive at this juncture, Chapter 036, borrowing the sword, the divine sword Tai has summoned the flying swords from the sword tomb, unleashing a fierce and unparalleled storm of blades from the heavens. Yet, Lu Chen did not falter. Instead, he advanced. His sword heart flourished, transforming into a radiant pillar of sword light, ascending defiantly to confront the multitude of flying swords. With each step, he seemed to tread upon lotuses, defying gravity as the sword light surrounding him intensified, continuously clashing with the descending beams. A buzzing resonated through the air. The divine sword hovered above, vibrating incessantly, as if deriding his audacity. Suddenly, the myriad sword lights sharpened, coalescing into a mountain of blades. Striking fiercely, Chapter 037. Returning the sword, the flying swords cascaded like rain. Lu Chen unleashed the unparalleled power of his sword heart, capable of contending with Tai itself. However, he was constrained by the limitations of his realm and magical prowess, rendering him unable to subdue it. Now, the assembled swords of the disciples of Mount Shu converged and enhanced one another, akin to a tiger sprouting wings. With a single stroke, countless swords were subdued, leaving only the divine sword Tai still soaring in the air, vibrating incessantly and emanating a fierce light. Tai, will you not submit? Lu Chen bellowed, his voice reverberating like thunder. Chapter 38. The master of the Tai sword within the sword immortal hall, an ancient flying sword gracefully hovers in midair. Its entirety is adorned in a deep crimson hue, perpetually emanating a chilling aura of carnage, its keen edge discernible even in tranquility. A century has passed, yet the Tai remains as sharp and formidable as ever. Who could have imagined that in my lifetime I would behold its resurgence in this world? Alas, that individual has departed. The head of the seven peaks regarded the divine sword Tai before Lu Chen, unable to suppress his emotions. It seemed this sword bore countless tales. Chapter 39. The former sword god, the frigid pool rippled, and the Tai sword quivered and resonated. It locked its gaze with the figure submerged beneath the water. Without my sword heart, I am but a hollow vessel, lingering here in a fruitless existence. I am unworthy of you. Tai, you merit a far more radiant future. As the figure spoke, he abruptly opened his mouth and expelled a surge of sword energy. The tumultuous undercurrents transformed into a pillar of water that surged skyward, colliding with the Tai's sword, propelling it backward. Lu Chen instinctively reached out and grasped the hilt of the Tai's sword. Though the blade trembled momentarily, it swiftly steadied. Chapter 40. The Great Dream Sutra this time. The sword-giving ceremony at Mount Shu, despite encountering some obstacles and requiring considerable effort, yielded abundant rewards. Not only did he successfully acquire one of the three divine swords, Tai, and ascend to the esteemed rank of a disciple of Mount Shu, but he also garnered the support of the populace, significantly enhancing his experience points. With the accumulation of prior experience points, Lu Chen now possessed over 11,000 points. If utilized for upgrades, he could directly break through to the mid-stage of crystallization. However, considering his accumulation, the disparity in magical power between the early and mid-stage of crystallization was not insignificant. Chapter 41. The legend of the blood demon Lu Chen soared through the air on his sword, making his way toward the sword immortal hall. Along the journey, the disciples of Mount Shu bowed to him with reverence. After all, Lu Chen had now ascended to the rank of a true disciple. Wielding the divine sword Tai, his status was extraordinary. Moreover, during the sword-giving ceremony, he generously bestowed swords upon the crowd, further endearing himself to them. Now, the disciples of Mount Shu were eager to refer to him as brother, holding him in high esteem. In terms of prestige and popularity, among the 9 esteemed disciples of Mount Shu, only the legendary Gu Changsheng stood out as the mightiest. Chapter 42. Better to sleep on a grave than in a ruined temple, Sufeng City, situated in the northwest of the Central Plains, no longer resides within the confines of Shu territory. Thus, The distance is considerable. Traveling by horse and carriage would require at least half a month. And even flying on a sword would necessitate an entire day. Therefore, Luchan did not tarry. After a brief period of preparation, he embarked with Xianing Shuang towards Sufeng. Throughout the journey, Luchan maintained a steady pace. With 3 months remaining until September 8th, there was no urgency in seeking the saintess of the demon sect. Along the way, should any incidents arise. Chapter 043. The specter enters the dream as the sun descended below the horizon. Night enveloped the land. In the desolate mountains and forests, an eerie silence prevailed. The chirping of insects and the melodies of birds were utterly absent, with only the mournful howling of the night wind echoing like the lamentations of wolves and spirits. It sent shivers down one's spine. Luchan sat cross-legged within the city god temple, feigning slumber as he awaited the arrival of experiences. To his astonishment, he waited for nearly half the night without encountering any malevolent spirits or creatures. Could it be that I was mistaken? An unmistakable aura of the supernatural pervades this locale. Alternatively, could it be that the lingering divine essence of this temple serves to dissuade malevolent forces from drawing near? Chapter 044. The White Lotus deity, the young lady, harbors no ill intent and has never inflicted harm upon another. I beseech the immortal master to perceive the truth. The female specter knelt upon the ground, weeping with profound sorrow. Upon hearing her lament, Luchan hesitated in his assault, yet remained dubious, not easily swayed by her entreaty. He then summoned his magical prowess, activating his divine sight to examine her closely. This ethereal figure was strikingly alluring, yet her spirit appeared delicate, indicating she had recently departed from the mortal realm. Furthermore, she exhibited minimal traces of malevolence, indeed, not bearing the hallmarks of a nefarious spirit. Malevolent entities invariably carry an aura of sinister energy, a reality that cannot be masked. Chapter 045. Directly ascending to paradise, the celestial way is vast and ethereal. The sword's essence boundless. The brilliance of righteousness radiates, veiling both deities and demons. The resplendent sword light pierced the night sky, akin to a blazing torch, unwavering in its potency. Luchan trailed behind Shui Yinyin, forging ahead as waves of righteous sword energy surged behind them. All malevolent spirits attempting to impede their journey were obliterated and crushed. A succession of system notifications echoed persistently. Yet, Luchan remained largely indifferent to them. Before long, the duo arrived at the depths of the mass grave. Chapter 046. Borrowing a corpse to return the soul. Child of destiny, supreme command, liberate your solitary spirit. May all spirits and phantoms receive your grace. Beneath the cold moonlight, Luchan sat cross-legged under the vast expanse of the night sky, quietly reciting the scriptures of rebirth. Streams of ethereal brilliance cascaded down like divine nectar, nourishing all living beings. The luminous magic sparkled and descended. From the forms of the wandering souls, a hazy golden light began to ascend, as if an unseen portal to the afterlife had unfurled, guiding them toward the 9 netherworlds and the cycle of reincarnation. Immortal Master, your compassion rescues me. Grant me liberation and transcendence, for which I am profoundly grateful. The merits of the Immortal Master. Chapter 047. The Taoist sects of the world are one family. Gazing upon the dirt-streaked youth before him, Luchan found himself at a loss for words. A child of destiny? A being graced with extraordinary fortune, destined to earn the favor of heaven and earth in the days to come. Had he not ventured into this realm, this Liu Yang might very well ascend to become the protagonist of this world. Such an extraordinary opportunity to eliminate Liu Yang carries a certain probability of seizing his fortune. Yet, this course of action is fraught with peril. He has already received teachings from the true man of Wudong, which signifies a genuine inheritance. To take his life would undoubtedly invite calamity. Moreover, to kill solely for the sake of fortune is unseemly, particularly as he is not inherently malevolent. Chapter 048. Inviting you into the trap tomorrow in the frigid embrace of the Northwest. Though it pales in comparison to the tranquil allure of the Shu Mountains and crystalline waters, Sufeng, as the preeminent city in the region, is abundant in mineral wealth and flourishes in prosperity. Accompanied by Xian Ningxiang and Cui Yinyin, Lu Chun soared through the winds upon his sword, arriving at the city by noon the following day. The prefect of Sufeng, Zhang Lin, upon receiving the news, personally approached the city gates with his attendants to extend a warm welcome. This unexpected display of courtesy astonished Lu Chun, for they were not in Shu, where the disciples of Mount Shu commanded a certain reverence that could warrant such attentiveness from a local governor. It was likely that this attention was more attributable to Xianning. Chapter 049. Jealousy towards evil Zhonglin is undeniably a malevolent figure. Within the guest room of the Bun, Lu Chun formed intricate seals with his hands, and amidst the luminous aura of his magical energy, a doll, no larger than a palm, materialized, flawlessly articulating the dialogue between Zhonglin and the hawk. He had long nurtured suspicions regarding Zhonglin, thus taking preemptive measures. He strategically placed a doll puppet in a discreet corner of the living room for the purpose of eavesdropping. Given his current level of cultivation and magical prowess, the use of such a minor incantation would elude detection, provided that his adversary's abilities did not significantly surpass his own. Chapter 050. A carnage unleashed. The night breeze was refreshingly cool, and the luminous moon ascended gracefully in the heavens, beneath the ethereal glow of the moonlight. In the northern expanse of Sufeng City, a grand temple rose majestically. Its gilded tiles and crimson walls, coupled with the imposing entrance, emanated an aura of solemnity. The three bold golden characters inscribed Han Mountain Temple were strikingly prominent, standing in stark contrast to the surrounding dilapidated and humble abodes. This Han Mountain Temple was far from unassuming. It encompassed a vast area and showcased magnificent architecture. In terms of grandeur, it rivaled the illustrious Buddhist temples such as Jinchang Temple, Shinin Temple, and Langkisi. Chapter 051. Upon witnessing the Bodhisattva, why not prostrate? Having made his decisive move, Lu Chun ceased to veil his presence. He ascended on the luminous arc of his sword towards the Mahavira Hall, seeking to divert the guard's attention and alleviate the burden on Xia Ningxiang as she strove to rescue others, while simultaneously aiming to vanquish a few more brigands to amass experience. In the shroud of darkness, numerous patrolling monks hastened towards the source of the disturbance. Luchin exhibited noristrant. With each step, his sword energy surged forth, and the torrent of his magical prowess roared mightily. Cries of anguish reverberated, and blood cascaded like blossoms beneath the moonlight, an unstoppable force. Chapter 052. A centipede aspires to Buddhahood? With a thunderous clash, as Lu Chun descended with his sword, the hand of the Buddha fragmented, disintegrating into stones that cascaded upon the ground. Golden blood erupted and hissed upon meeting the floor, releasing a noxious, sulfuric stench. Wretched villain, how dare you profane the sacred form of my Bodhisattva? You merit naught but death. The thousand-handed Guanyin bellowed with fury. The compassion that once dwelled in its gaze was supplanted by a chilling malevolence that sent tremors through the soul. According to Zhang Lin's design, you could have survived until tomorrow, yet you opted for rashness. Chapter 053. The golden body and relics. The centipede demon found itself in a state of utter bewilderment. It beheld a relentless torrent of sword light that mercilessly wrought destruction, as blood and flesh cascaded like rain. The countless flying blood corpses it had painstakingly nurtured had yet to make their entrance before being completely obliterated. What manner of creature was this human standing before it? Particularly striking was Lu Chen's expression of eager anticipation at that moment. The centipede's spirit was overcome by a wave of anxiety. Even if I were to bear offspring, it would be impossible to summon them to face such a fate. Fear. For the very first time in my life, the centipede's spirit felt it acutely. Chapter 54. The overwhelming authority at this moment outside Han's Han Temple. Swords were raised and armor gleamed, exuding an air of slaughter. Governor Zhang Lin of Suifeng sat atop his steed, his expression dark. He seemed to sense the impending demise of the centipede's spirit, a tumultuous blend of shock and anger welling within him. This wretched creature, I had hoped it would assist me in capturing those two disciples from Shushan tomorrow. Yet unexpectedly, it was vanquished with such swiftness. Zhang Lin shook his head in dismay. In truth, he had not foreseen that Lu Chun would take action tonight, opting for a nocturnal raid. Chapter 55. The flesh and blood demon spawn. Lu Chun wielded his sword single-handedly, emanating a sword intent potent enough to quell 1,000 troops. He moved as if traversing a realm devoid of opposition. His formidable presence and piercing sword intent surged forth, an unceasing cascade of sword light converging like a mighty river, plunging headlong into the conflict. Even from several dozen paces away, Zhang Lin could sense the immense pressure weighing upon him. This young man, scarcely matured and merely beginning to solidify his cultivation, who could have imagined he wielded such power? Zhang Lin was both shocked and astonished. Once a scholar himself, he had studied Confucian methods under the tutelage of Xian Ningxuang's father in his youth, allowing him to perceive the situation with clarity. Chapter 56. Annihilation with a single sword. Lu Chun exhibited no mercy in his assault. The Taya divine sword was as sharp as a blade slicing through iron, and in an instant of brilliance, it severed Zhang Lin's hands and feet. Blood spattered everywhere. He screamed, his body rebounding like a ball, narrowly evading Lu Chun's subsequent lethal strike. Soon after, his body began to writhe. Pulses of blood coagulated, astonishingly regenerating his limbs. Yet, compared to before, his form appeared significantly frilier, as if the excess flesh had been stripped away to fashion his new appendages. Chapter 57. The True Fire of Samadhi. Establishing the sword across the realm. Ding. Congratulations, esteemed host, on the successful obliteration of the demonic sect's branch, the discovery of the sect's holy maiden, and the triumphant completion of the second phase of your mission with an S rating, thereby earning the illustrious reward of True Fire of Samadhi. The system notification resounded. At long last, the task has been fulfilled. Upon hearing the announcement, Lu Chun could not suppress a sigh of relief. This mission had been laden with complexities, as the Blood Soul sect had initially seized the upper hand, leading to the tragic demise of Cui Yin and the sealing of her body. Had he faltered even slightly and fallen prey to Zhang Lin's machinations, it could have resulted in complete disaster. Fortunately, Chapter 58. The ancient cave seal. Lu Chun established the Shushan sword monument at the ruins of Hantan Temple, an event that swiftly reverberated throughout the land. The citizens surrounding Suifeng City became aware of a remarkable true disciple emerging from Shushan, vanquishing demons and safeguarding the region, thus earning widespread acclaim. Particularly the women he saved, upon returning home, expressed immense gratitude towards Lu Chun and Xian Ningxuang, with many even constructing longevity altars in their homes, offering daily incense and prayers for their blessings. Meanwhile, Xian Ningxuang conveyed the events through her family's channels directly to the imperial court in the capital. Thus, the news of Zhang Lin's demise. Chapter 59. The Burden of Happiness. Chapter 060. I want him dead. The tenacity of this Lu Chun is indeed unsettling. The young man let out a cold laugh, his eyes gleaming with murderous intent. At that moment, the ghostly-faced elder at the riverbank stepped forward, expressing concern. Young master, with the saintess's physical form destroyed and the loss of her pure Yin blood, the ritual cannot commence. It appears we will be unable to break the seal and summon the blood god on the appointed date of the celestial eclipse. Should the master take issue with this, it could lead to— Not to worry, the young man replied dismissively, turning to survey the crowd. Chapter 061. Without attachment. After a night of recuperation, Lu Chun had nearly assimilated all the benefits from the recent events. The only exception was the technique of flesh rebirth, which had emerged from Zhang Lin. After considerable contemplation, he resolved against practicing it. The primary reason lay in the cruelty and viciousness of the technique, which necessitated the consumption of flesh and blood for regeneration, an aspect that even experience points could not amend. Furthermore, having refined the Buddhist relic, Lu Chun's physical form had become formidable. With time, he could cultivate an external golden core through the practice of Buddhist techniques. Under ordinary circumstances, it was impossible for the physical body to endure. Chapter 062. The accompanying silver bell. Upon hearing Lady Chui's words, Lu Chun was genuinely taken aback. His illusion technique, combined with the straw puppet, was nearly flawless. Even those of slightly lesser cultivation might not perceive the ruse. How could Lady Chui, an ordinary mortal, discern any irregularity? Sensing Lu Chen's bewilderment, Lady Chui offered a bittersweet smile, proclaiming, "No one knows my daughter better than I do. After all, she is a part of me. How could I possibly fail to recognize her? Her hands, they are so cold." At this moment, Lu Chun fell into silence. Chapter 063, devoted to serving the immortal master, forever in his wake. Immortal master, what are your wishes? Chui Yin floated gracefully, merging with the straw puppet, seeking refuge beneath the trees as she inquired. Lu Chun waved his hand, employing his powers to shroud the sunlight, then beckoned her to come closer. He opened the wooden box and retrieved the silver bell bracelet, asking, "Do you recognize this silver bell?" "This is..." Chui Yin gazed at the silver bell, a sense of familiarity washing over her, though it felt as if she had never encountered it before, igniting her curiosity. She stepped closer and reached out to touch the bell. Chapter 064, amidst heaven and earth, who can attain eternal life? The essence of the artifact acknowledges its master, accompanying them for all eternity. Lu Chun raised his hand, his fingertip radiating a sword-like brilliance as a droplet of essence blood soared forth, landing upon Chui Yin's brow and transforming into a seal. This process resembles the refinement of magical artifacts, wherein blood binds the master. However, the essence of the artifact's spirit is exceedingly rare. It must earn genuine recognition to acknowledge its master. Otherwise, even through forced subjugation and refinement, true dominion remains unattainable. The Tai sword that Lu Chun once wielded previously housed an artifact spirit, which is why the sect leader brought him to meet Qin Qing Feng to receive the official inheritance. Chapter 065, Brother, have you offended someone? An unforeseen transformation unfolded. Xianing Shuang could not have anticipated that the seemingly pitiable little girl before her would suddenly launch an attack. As the girl lunged forward with razor-sharp claws, Xia swiftly summoned her magical energy to erect a protective barrier, unleashing a tempest of icy sword chi. Boom! The little girl collided with the radiant sword light, instantly encasing half her body in ice, blood gushing forth as the sword light pierced through her. Yet, her form abruptly split open, revealing a horde of grotesque blood worms surging forth from beneath her skin, overwhelming Xianing Shuang. Carnivorous worms. Chapter 066. The deceased do not merit names. The authentic legacy of Shushan is indeed as illustrious as it professes. Amidst the sanguine haze of the forest, the swordsman, bearing a visage marred by scars, wore an expression of solemnity. Initially, he had been commanded to lead his subordinates from the Linyun stronghold to ambush 2 disciples of Shushan, dismissing the assignment as an excessive reaction. However, upon discovering that Zhang Lin had met his demise at the hands of this individual, he adopted a grave demeanor. Consequently, he set elaborate traps in preparation, originally intended for Lu Chun, but unexpectedly, the youth's tender age. Chapter 067. The gluttonous golden core with a formidable strike. The dragon ascended. Lu Chun, unyielding, summoned the formidable essence of the great river sword, unleashing the divine Tai, a sword upon the immense wolf. His adversary, a formidable practitioner of the demonic sect, wielded the cultivation of a golden core. Conventional methods would likely falter against such prowess. Securing the initiative was crucial for triumph. Boom! The expansive sword chi surged forth, reminiscent of the Milky Way cascading from the heavens, brilliant and resplendent. It resembled a dragon emerging from the depths of the sea, upending the world itself. Chapter 068. Thus, I find myself with no alternative but to vanquish you all. Pain, pain, pain. The colossal wolf lamented in anguish. Unbeknownst to him, ensconced within the murky yellow sword chi lay treacherous peril. Having been consumed by the gluttonous golden core, he was ensnared in excruciating torment. The golden core suspended above his head decayed, seemingly tainted by corruption, causing his magical energy to falter the core to fracture, and his vitality to dwindle. In a futile attempt to reclaim the golden core into his abdomen, he was thwarted by the horrendous, corrosive liquid. He could only fervently channel the remnants of his magical energy to stave off the looming collapse, albeit with scant success. Should this persist, his golden core would soon splinter, rendering all his cultivation utterly futile. Chapter 069. The Value of a Golden Core Expert Boom. The sword chi surged like a vibrant rainbow, crashing against the cliff. The earth quaked, dust billowing into the air, while stones were sent flying in all directions. In a fit of fury, Shushan unleashed a formidable strike, and the overwhelming sword chi erupted like a torrential flood, cleaving the entire cliff asunder. The terrifying force reverberated through the forest. Xiaoning Shuang could not help but widen her eyes, feeling for the first time the intense killing intent emanating from Shushan. An enraged senior brother, indeed, is a sight to behold. Nevertheless, the masked old man remains, after all, a formidable golden core expert. Chapter 070. I informed you. Escape is not an option. The masked elder is indeed treacherous and astute. Observing the tide of battle shifting against him, he swiftly retreated with remarkable agility. His escape maneuvers are executed with such artistry that one cannot help but admire his prowess. In the realm of evasion, Shushan could not help but regard him as unparalleled. However, how could he allow the experience points he had nearly seized to elude him? Furthermore, having narrowly escaped injury from the elder's sinister arrow earlier, he could not find solace until this man was vanquished. Come if you desire, depart if you wish. Do you truly believe that Shushan is an easy target? Chapter 071. The ruins of Western Chu golden light pierced through, and the dark aura of animosity erupted violently, instantly engulfing the figure of the masked elder. A formidable wave of magical energy surged forth, conjuring towering clouds of dust and trembling the very earth beneath. Shushan felt as though a colossal mountain had collided with him. He hastily activated his protective magic, enveloped by the Yellow Springs diagram, propelling himself back hundreds of feet merely to regain his footing. Boom! The sound of the explosion was deafening, echoing across the desolate expanse of the desert. The magical tempest dispersed in all directions, scattering the demons that had been roaming nearby. Chapter 072. Junior Yangqi of Mount Shu. Salutations to the esteemed senior. The formidable halberd descended with a resounding force, stirring up clouds of dust and debris. Shushan deftly contorted his body, effortlessly evading the onslaught. Despite the skeletal halberd warrior's immense strength, its movements were sluggish, rendering such an attack incapable of inflicting harm upon him. In a swift retaliation, he delivered a powerful blow, instantly shattering the skeletal soldier and extinguishing the flames that flickered within its eye sockets. Ding! Congratulations, host, for vanquishing the skeletal halberd warrior, earning 100 experience. A mere 100 points of experience? Shushan couldn't help but shake his head. Chapter 073. You make a valid point. Once Shushan sensed that the elderly man might harbor ill intentions, a wave of instinctual retreat surged within him. As he spoke, he ascended gracefully into the air, riding the luminous sword light as he swiftly traversed toward the ancient city ruins. The entire sequence unfolded with remarkable fluidity and poise. No sooner had his words escaped his lips than he had already soared several dozen feet away. What a sly little rascal! Observing this, the white-haired elder's expression shifted dramatically. The tranquility that once graced his brow vanished entirely. He had meticulously crafted this scheme, convinced he could outwit Shushan, only to discover that he had gravely underestimated him. Chapter 074. The True Arts of the Three Saints. Dual golden cores. Noticing that Shushan had not immediately taken his leave, Xiang Ao experienced a wave of relief. He had endured suppression for an excessively prolonged period, and his magical prowess was dwindling. He harbored fears that he might not endure another 3 centuries. Shushan had become his solitary beacon of hope. Even if he could not directly seize the essence of this youth, he must devise a means to extract a glimmer of promise from him. Thus, he contemplated, you arrive at this locale solely in pursuit of opportunities and treasures. For cultivators, The quest is invariably for wealth, companions, techniques, and dominion. You hail from Mount Shu, youthful yet endowed with such formidable strength, undoubtedly. You must have garnered considerable favor from your sect. Ordinary treasures. Chapter 075. Is it not preferable to revel in his power freely? This young man, perpetually preoccupied with the notion of seizing corporeal forms. Why am I not the one claiming yours? Xiang Ao found himself a loss for words. Yet, upon hearing Lu Chen's inquiry, it became apparent that there was a glimmer of hope in this endeavor. In the realm of negotiation, mutual benefit is paramount for any agreement to progress. Therefore, he acquiesced and remarked, "Have no fear. You are sufficiently astute that I cannot usurp your essence. Provided you consent to deliver that talisman and procure a suitable physical vessel to facilitate my escape from this confinement, I shall bestow upon you the sacred method of the twin golden elixirs." Xiang Ao articulated his stipulations. This effectively necessitated my assistance in deceiving a simpleton. Chapter 76. Unfettered confidence. Return to Mount Shu. The pact is sealed. As flames surged, the agreement transformed into a wisp of blue smoke, dissipating into the air. With the covenant established, both Lu Chun and Xiang Ao could not help but exhale in relief, secretly elated. I am a man of my word. Now that the pact is sealed, all these treasures are yours. The complete method of the twin secrets is also here. Take a look, ensure its accuracy, lest you blame me for any misfortune in the future. As he spoke, Xiang Ao raised his hand, employing his mystical power to elevate the treasure chest beyond the confines of the sealing barrier. Lu Chen remained vigilant, cautiously examining the chest. Chapter 77. The dragon emerges from Mount Shu. Upon hearing the words of the sect leader, Lu Chen was momentarily startled, but soon a gentle warmth enveloped his heart. Although the sect leader's tone was resolute, his intentions were rooted in a sincere concern for Lu Chen's well-being. This sentiment brought him solace. Consequently, Lu Chen abstained from retorting. Bowing respectfully, the sect leader's admonitions are indeed warranted. This matter was a result of my impulsiveness. Should I find myself in a similar predicament in the future, I shall dedicate all my efforts to ensuring the adversary does not evade capture, thereby obviating the necessity for perilous pursuits. I am pleased that you comprehend this. Observing Lu Chen's genuine demeanor of remorse, the Qingshu real person inclined his head slightly, yet as he pondered further. Chapter 78. Do not underestimate the defenders of Mount Shu. Cultivators possess distinct methodologies for the refinement of elixirs. The sword pellets of Mount Shu, the pristine inner elixirs from Long Hushan and Wudong, the sacred relics of the Buddhist sect, the Confucian inner texts, and the nefarious embryos of the diabolic sect, alongside the unique techniques employed by the Blood Soul sect's insatiable golden elixirs and the elixirs of animosity, all represent a rich tapestry of philosophical schools. Each elixir, produced through varied techniques, manifests its own distinctive effects. The merits and demerits of these methodologies are subjective, ultimately intertwined with one's inherent talent and level of cultivation. The process of elixir refinement is fundamentally linked to future accomplishments and trajectories, necessitating meticulous contemplation. Presently, Mount Shu employs the technique of fire refining. Chapter 79. The unremarkable yet unyielding Ping inner disciple Zhou Ping seeks an audience with the esteemed Lu Shixiao. Upon receiving this news, Lu Chen raised his gaze towards the entrance. There stood a young man clad in simple attire, his hands clasped behind his back. He appeared to be in his late 20s, possessing an unremarkable visage yet exuding a steadfast demeanor. Lacking a flying sword, he emanated a tranquil and composed presence, evoking an impression of utter ordinariness. In a multitude, he would undoubtedly fade into the background. So strikingly average that Lu Chen found himself uncertain as to whether he had previously crossed paths with him. Chapter 80. Unlocking Divine Abilities. The Descent of the Deity, Brother Lu Chen. What prompted you to accept the challenge from that individual? Inquiring with curiosity, the young girl Lu Li emerged from the kitchen, delicately balancing a plate of tofu. Given Lu Chen's esteemed position, he could have effortlessly declined challenge. Yet, not only did he acquiesce, but he also insisted on waiting for a span of 3 days to publicly confront Zhou Ping, a choice that appeared to extend beyond mere politeness towards his rival. Upon hearing her question, Lu Chan turned his gaze towards her, a gentle smile gracing his lips as he replied, "Do not underestimate Zhou Ping. While his innate talent may be considered unremarkable, he possesses the remarkable ability to confront malevolent energies each year without compromising his essence." And even. Chapter 081. Boundless between heaven and earth. The truth of the word of action, rune, signifies the liberation of both body and spirit, an infinite odyssey. With the grace of the word, agility and speed are augmented by one. Acquired the word seal, divine movement rune, which compresses the vastness of the earth into mere inches. Word divine ability, boundless between heaven and earth, locked, necessitating further advancement and mastery of the word rune. The preliminary deduction of the second truth rune demands a more considerable investment of experience points. After expending 5,000 experience points, Lu Chen ultimately selected the word secret from the 9-character mantra. His current capabilities in magic, physical strength, and swordsmanship are at varying degrees of proficiency. Chapter 082. The Spirit of Immortality, Cultivating Foundations in Dreams, the Taiji Seal. Indeed, the duality of yin and yang, the path of duality, is encapsulated within the Taiji of Wudong. Should one acquire the Taiji Seal and master the forces of yin and yang, perhaps the dilemma of transcending the dual golden core could be surmounted. Although this notion remains unverified at present, it offers a flicker of hope. Lu Chun, initially bewildered, suddenly found enlightenment through Cui Yinyan's insightful reminder. Splendid. Yinyan, your timely intervention has proven to be immensely beneficial. Lu Chen beamed. Chapter 083. The 9 transformations of the Golden Core, gathering thunderclouds. The embryonic manifestation of the Golden Core has emerged. As Lu Chun gazed upon the azure and crimson forms of the Golden Core nestled within his ocean of energy, he experienced a sense of tranquility. The initial challenge in ascending to the Golden Core stage lies in the solidification of its embryonic shape. Many falter due to insufficient accumulation, lack of magical potency, or incomplete arcane techniques, thereby squandering their energy and jeopardizing their essence. However, Lu Chen's robust foundation, complemented by the rare treasures of Huangquan water and Samadhi true fire, enabled him to navigate this process with remarkable ease. The entire progression unfolded as seamlessly as water cascading down a slope. Chapter 084. The Descent of the Thunder Tribulation Boom. The clouds churned like tumultuous ocean waves, dark and oppressive, heavy with an almost suffocating weight. Electricity crackled and surged through the air, amidst the astonished gazes of the onlookers. The 7th bolt of lightning manifested. The 7th thunder tribulation is taking shape. Is senior brother Lu Chun striving to ascend to the 7th rank? How formidable indeed. The might of this 7th thunder tribulation eclipses all 6 that preceded it. Even Gu Changsheng nearly wavered in its presence. Senior brother Lu Chun, also known as the Master of the Divine Sword, possesses a talent that rivals that of Gu Changsheng. His endeavor towards the 7th rank is. Chapter 085. The sword of the great river descended from the heavens. A resounding boom reverberated through the air as the lightning split the heavens, confronting the formidable thunder tribulation. Lu Chun took the initiative, unleashing the sword pill golden core. The radiant sword light soared like a celestial rainbow, clashing with the bolts of lightning. The golden core whirled as the sword pill resonated. The lightning morphed into strands of electric arcs, crackling fiercely, yet it failed to inflict any harm upon the golden core. Instead, the sword pill absorbed the tempestuous energy as if undergoing a process of tempering and refinement. It transformed into a more rounded and translucent form, revealing the embryonic outline of a diminutive sword. With unwavering resolve, he unleashed the golden core, bravely confronting the thunderous tribulation head-on. Chapter 086. The Majesty of Heaven. Not to be transgressed, the 8th thunderous tribulation loomed ominously, instilling a sense of dread. Lu Chun engaged in introspection and recognized his lack of confidence in enduring its wrath. Thus, he resolved to adopt an offensive stance, directly summoning the great river sword intent and invoking the waters of the heavenly pool to morph into a flood dragon. In truth, Lu Chun had only just begun to grasp the nuances of the great river sword intent and had yet to fully comprehend its profound essence. Consequently, the manifestations he had previously displayed fell short of the formidable prowess he had envisioned. At this moment, harnessing the might of the waters from the yellow springs and the spiritual liquid from the heavenly pool, he unleashed a full-force strike, the sword light flowing like a dragon, finally revealing a glimpse of the resplendence of the great river sword intent. Chapter 087, Golden Core. Golden Core. The divine lightning of gold erupted, its power astonishing. At that moment, the entire sky above the heavenly pool was engulfed in golden lightning, an oppressive force radiating forth, unleashing waves of destructive energy. The disciples of Shushan, witnessing from afar, felt an overwhelming fear within their hearts. Such celestial might was beyond human capability to resist. Instinctively, they recoiled, devoid of any will to fight back. Yet Lu Chun resolutely faced the thunderous tribulation, much like his earlier encounter with the menacing Taya, neither retreating nor evading, advancing with unwavering determination. Chapter 088. 80,000 flying swords, yet none within 3 feet. Zhou Ping? Who is he? I have yet to hear this name. Who could he be to warrant Brother Lu Chen's direct mention? Surely he must be an extraordinary talent? I am uncertain. I have never encountered him. Zhou Ping. I seem to recall him as that sword enthusiast. The assembled disciples, upon listening to Lu Chen's utterances, were enveloped in bewilderment. As they surveyed their surroundings, they observed an inconspicuous young man advancing from the throng. Once they recognized his countenance, enlightenment illuminated their minds. Chapter 089. The wooden sword and the divine sword, the primordial art of swordsmanship in close combat. As Zhou Ping brandished his sword to deliver a strike, Lu Chun could not suppress a flicker of astonishment. In terms of magical prowess, innate talent, experience, and technique, Zhou Ping was in an entirely different league. Nevertheless, through his mountain-moving sword technique, he adeptly dismantled his own magical energy and radiant light, in stark contrast to the ostentation of flying sword techniques. His swordsmanship exuded a simplicity and purity. In that fleeting moment, Zhou Ping embodied the essence of a determined assassin, advancing with his blade, which effortlessly cleared all impediments, singularly focused on encroaching within 3 feet. Once within this proximity, Chapter 090, Drinking Water, Remembering the Source. A heart of innocence from Zhou Ping's ascent of the mountain with his sword to Lu Chen's solitary fingers suppressing him. Although it seemed an extensive process, it occurred in the blink of an eye. Just moments prior, onlookers were in awe of Zhou Ping's sword technique, and in the next instant, the victor was unequivocally established. It was not that Zhou Ping lacked strength. Rather, Lu Chun was simply too formidable. With no apparent vulnerabilities in magical power, physical prowess, experience, or technique, he also surpassed Zhou Ping in swordsmanship. The supreme sword heart, the great river sword intent, and the resonant divine sword Taya rendered Zhou Ping's defeat almost predestined. Chapter 091. The feeling of missing out on a billion, the 9th grade golden core, is exceedingly rare, a true treasure among the masses. As the golden light of divine thunder manifested upon Mount Shu, a profound resonance reverberated throughout the mortal realms. Wudong, Longhu, Jinshan Temple, Shenan Temple, Kunlun Mountain, the Celestial Monitoring Bureau of the Imperial Capital, Saints Platform, Honghu Academy. Even the far-flung lands of the Eastern Sea, Penglai, the untamed grasslands, the polar glaciers, and the unfathomable abyss felt the stirrings of countless gazes, traversing mountains and rivers, irresistibly drawn towards the heart of Shu. Yet ultimately, all were confronted with a singular. Chapter 092. Are you a demon? Why must I reconstruct my foundation? Lu furrowed her brow, instinctively retreating a step. Her brother, Lu Chun, had never addressed her with such familiarity. There was an unsettling quality to his gaze. Thus, she hastily shook her head. I have already established my foundation. How could I ever consider rebuilding it? However, Lu Chun remained undeterred, his eyes shimmering with a covetous desire for that ethereal energy. He tentatively proposed, "What if I were to first dismantle your foundation, and then we could?" Wow, are you a demon? Chapter 093. The Manifestation of the Ancestors of Mount Shu. The night breeze whispered coolly as the chilling wind swept through the mountain gorge, ruffling the surface of the frigid pool. The droplets cascading from the waterfall, aglow in the moonlight, resembled crystalline fireflies, a truly breathtaking spectacle. At this hour, Luli had long surrendered to slumber. The majority of the disciples of Mount Shu were absorbed in their own meditative practices within their individual caves, with only the occasional flicker of sword light patrolling the skies. In this moment, Mount Shu exuded an aura of profound tranquility. Lu Chun, clutching a flask of wine, positioned himself by the cold pool, foregoing any formalities. Surely, a person of Chun Qingfeng's stature required no respite. Chapter 094. Clues of a mysterious power indeed. Something is amiss. Upon beholding the malevolent spirit entwined within the vermilion sands, Lu Chen's visage sharpened with intensity. This entity, entirely wrought from nefarious thoughts, bore no corporeal form. Resembling a mental brand, should one succumb to its insidious imprint, their mind would be infiltrated, thoughts manipulated, and their very essence devoured. It was a method of possession. Had Lu Chun not remained vigilant, he might have indeed fallen prey to its alluring whispers. My blood surges like a dragon, purging the evil that dares to approach, Lu Chun declared, his voice resonating with the might of thunder. Chapter 095. The Immortal Demon That Cannot Be Slain. If one were to speak of the most illustrious edifice upon Mount Shu, it would undoubtedly be the Demon Locking Tower. According to legend, this tower was a celestial artifact, bestowed upon our ancestors alongside the demon subduing sword millennia ago, symbolizing the divine authority conferred upon Mount Shu. The tower boasted an exceptionally unique architectural design, necessitating entry through a special portal from the top, in stark contrast to conventional towers that one ascends from the ground. Within its confines, it imprisoned countless fierce demons from ancient times to the present. For many, the Demon Locking Tower was a treacherous domain. However, for Lu Chun, it epitomized an immense treasure trove. Chapter 096. Beyond the three realms, unbound by the five elements, the waters of the Yellow Springs metamorphosed into beams of sword light, striking directly into the maw of the demon. The creature, having previously endured the searing embrace of the Samadhi true fire, summoned every ounce of strength to evade its demise, striving to recuperate and resist the flames. Little did it realize, Lu Chun unleashed another lethal maneuver as the waters of the Yellow Springs infiltrated its being, swiftly dissolving its demonic essence and causing its flesh to decay, transforming its organs and bones into a putrid pool of liquid. Transforming demon water. It is the transforming demon water. Withdraw swiftly, withdraw. This young man possesses the ability to summon the sacred water of demon transformation. Do not incite his wrath. In the shadows, the other demons, overwhelmed with terror, bellowed in desperation, hastily retreating. Chapter 97. The ancestors' malevolent spirit to transcend the three realms and evade the confines of the five elements. Upon hearing this description, Lu Chen's expression took on a peculiar cast. It bore an uncanny resemblance to the evil sword immortal. Could it truly be this ancient entity? If so, it would indeed pose a monumental conundrum. As he contemplated this, the venerable Qingshu Zhenren elaborated. It is said that in ancient times, the ancestor engaged in the cultivation of the celestial secret scroll. In order to safeguard the sanctity of his essence, he was compelled to renounce his emotions and desires, along with all malevolent thoughts. These thoughts, imbued with the ancestor's celestial aura, coalesced into a singular malevolent spirit, meandering through the realms. Chapter 98. Pursued in the reflection of the sword's luminous glow, lifeless bodies lay strewn about, while rivers of blood flowed freely. The Tianquan Jinren struck with unrelenting ferocity, nearly obliterating the entire stronghold of the Blood Soul sect. Each of these malevolent cultivators had perpetrated innumerable heinous acts, weighed down by their transgressions, and thus merited their grim fates. Consequently, Qingshu Zhenren felt no sympathy. He merely cast an indifferent glance before addressing the Tianquan general below. Junior brother, have you apprehended that blood-soul young master? To this, Tianquan, upon reflection, candidly replied, "It was my oversight. I arrived too late," permitting the blood-soul young master to escape in advance. Chapter 99. I, Lu Chun. Never deceive. The distance from Mount Shu to Miaojiang is neither excessively far nor unduly close. Should one choose to traverse the skies upon a sword, the journey would demand no less than a day or two. Fortunately, Lu Chun possessed the remarkable ability to traverse vast expanses in an instant, augmented by the divine movement talisman. If he devoted his full energy to the endeavor, he could arrive at his destination within half a day. This undertaking was markedly different from those of yore. With the celestial phenomenon of the Tengu eclipse imminent in merely a few days, urgency was paramount. He must unerringly locate the blood-soul saint's son without hesitation. Otherwise, should he inadvertently unearth alternative means to unleash the blood demon, it would herald considerable peril. Chapter 100. Introsect slaughter. Fearing that Tong Yao might become aware of his intentions, Lu Chun hastened along his route, making only the most necessary stops. Within half a day's journey, he had entered the enchanting territory of Miaojiang. Although this region is secluded, it is adorned with breathtaking landscapes and abundant resources. Within the expansive mountains, a plethora of venomous creatures and spiritual herbs thrive, transforming it into a veritable treasure trove of nature's bounty. The inhabitants are predominantly from Miao ethnic villages, possessing customs and cultural practices distinctly different from those of Shu in the Central Plains. The Miao people hold shamanic deities in high esteem, and those who possess the ability to cultivate shamanic arts are revered as priests, receiving both honor and offerings, thus giving rise to the esteemed shamanic sect.